Okay, YouTube is now live, I believe. Let me check my phone again. Okay, it's working on YouTube now. That was weird. Right, hold on. Let me just, as usual. Let me check my phone again. I hear myself twice. Where am I hearing myself twice from? I'll figure that in a second. It's working on YouTube now. That was weird. Right, hold on. Let me just, as usual. I hear myself twice. Where am I hearing myself twice from? I'll figure that in a second. Is it Twitch? Is it Twitch? There's YouTube open somewhere, I believe, and that is what is causing this. There's YouTube open somewhere, I believe, and that is what is causing this. Well, we'll figure it out in a second. It's not already fixed. Well, we'll figure it out in a second. It's not already fixed. It's not what I want to do. It's not what I want to do. Okay, I'm figuring out what the cycle's coming from. Give me 1 second. This is killing me. Here it is. Also, here's some art fight stuff. This is like from like a year ago at this point. Still pretty good. Okay, we'll do a best of 1 this time, I think. Maybe. I mean, I might do an extra one if we're close to doing any of our dailies. Green or white, play 40 lands. we will just try out one of our Boros decks and we'll see what happens, because we might be able to throw something together. Sunstar Free Company is a mercenary group that works exclusively for the Celestial Palatinate. They exist with a strict hierarchy, with cadets serving Sunstar Knights, who in turn serve the Cosmic Grand Regent Maxim. Every time a fuse runs down, you'll automatically use one of your 30-second extensions if available. I don't know if I'll keep doing the Magic the Gathering arena before. I might just start moving it till after. The reason I thought about putting it in front is I thought it would give people time to like trickle in or something, but I don't think there's a ton of people anyway, so I might as well just probably just hop into the story. And if they miss something, they can just rewind. They can just watch the pod, I think. Oh, brother. We could swing with Dread Arcanist and then like get some value, but I think maybe we just chill for a second, and then next turn we try to cast like more than one spell, and then have Dread Arcanist pumped up and swing in for a little bit. Blood Artist into... This is a weird deck. I mean, it makes sense. I just haven't seen this specific like life gain sack deck yet. Okay, we can block with Illuminator Virtuoso, activate the heroic ability. It's not literally heroic, but it's basically heroic. The Connive ability. Discard this, so we pump it up +1, and then that kills the Leonin. Which I think is pretty big, because even though they do drain me off that, they probably were big on the Leonin and do a lot of damage. And if that thing got too big, I don't think I'd be able to do anything about it. Ancestral Anger. Draw, Connive. Homestead Courage. Another Homestead Courage. And then we can swing with Dread Arcanist and put a shield counter up on it. Wound of Safety. So it's harder to kill. Throw away this. We'll put in a Needle Verge pathway. We don't need that. Alright, let's just get reading the story. And that's how that deck is supposed to work. Thank you. Anyway, Edge of Eternities, Episode 9. Act 4, Revision 14, The Metal Man Cometh. Halia sits against the wall and using the vibrations of motion connected to the ship into her back and thighs, watches the other on the phone on render. So basically it's like echolocation kind of. Or seismic sense. She has taken a tactical position that protects her from any attempt to disarm her. Her goal is to prevent Aphrael from taking the ship or using the object. Aphrael flits about like a manic insect on Ephemeron Imaginal, something that was supposed to live a day and die. He watches, sings, stares into the hole in his hand, and talks to someone who isn't there. He drinks a lot of black licorice alcohol, and then it runs out. Captain Sammy and Tony try to repair the fusion drive, but it is obviously hopeless. To their credit, they seem very practiced at attempting the hopeless. The ship gets hotter and hotter. Radiators are pulled in for stealth. Water condensed on the outside of her armor. Her flamen says the air smells like mold. I mean, we know Sammy probably has mold inside their suit, and then also I assume the water condensation like from the heat. It's like getting humid. The Sundog doesn't catch them. Her long-term objective is to reach Vondam and report her choice. Then she'll have to find out if she chose well and Vondam chose wrongly, or if she's in error and he is somehow right to murder all those Cav and spare her life. He's probably in error, but I really doubt the Sunstar Company's gonna like want to do anything about that. They'd be like, well, you know, he's one of our best knights, so they're probably gonna give him like a best slap on the wrist. But I doubt even that. But until then, what can she do? She could go destroy the rock, but that would violate Malamass. And if Malamass breaks, she has no reason not to kill Aphrael and everyone else in her way. Interesting how that's how she frames it, and not like I'm gonna have to like fight these people. It's like, no, I'm just gonna have to kill them. Like, I'm going to win this, but I'd rather not. And she is so sick of her tonsils she's sick to her tonsils of killing, filthy in her liver and her kidneys with what she saw at Toro Duen. I think this is interesting because I think the relation that tonsils, liver, and kidneys have, it seems random, but I think they all like are in body parts that are in charge of filtering certain things. Like the point of tonsils, I believe, I had mine removed, but function. It's fighting infection. They're part of the body's immune system to stop germs entering the body through the mouth. And then the liver, specifically, regulates blood, but filters the blood to the body and breaks down poisonous substance like alcohol and drugs. And then kidneys, like filter stuff so you can pee, I think. To remove waste and extra fluid from your body. So the relation that all these body parts Halia is mentioning here, they seem random because it's like, what is something that's like kind of in your mouth / throat area, something like clearly like closer to like your abdomen and stuff have anything in common with each other? Like, and the answers are all like filtering. They're all part of the immune system. They all help filter stuff. So basically, what she's saying, she still feels sick because she feels like she's being metaphorically poisoned by what she's seeing. So that's why she feels it in all these. So it's symbolically represented in her feeling it in all these like organs responsible for filtering and like fighting off diseases and corruption and poison and stuff. And she's sick to her tonsils of killing. Filthy in her liver and her kidneys with what she saw at Shodo. And also your tonsils are pretty high up, so you could also say like it's kind of like a bit of like an idea of like she has up to here. Like usually when people like I'm up to here, like they raise their hand like really high, or like just to give them like an idea that they've been dealing with a lot. So like since your tonsils like in your throat / mouth, she's basically saying like I basically had it up to here in a way. She wants to wash, but she knows it will not help. So once again, this is reinforcing that thing we just saw of like this idea that like there's like a almost like a metaphorical like a mortal poison in her body. And you know, in the same way that like, you know, I'm not saying don't wash, but I'm saying like, you know, obviously if you're sick or your liver or kidneys are actively fighting something, washing isn't immediately going to help that if it's an internal issue. Eventually Sumas calls Aphrael to meet with her. She's still wearing her armor. Maybe she's afraid that if she takes it off, Captain Sammy will flood her compartment with nitrogen. It's what Aphrael would do, but it would also be a serious violation of Malamass. Malamass obliges you shelter and defend your guests. It is the guest's decision whether to yield their weapons. I'm sure. I guess the idea with nitrogen is that you replace all the air, because at least on Earth, most of the air is actually nitrogen. So I guess the idea is that you just slowly suck out the oxygen, put in nitrogen, and then the person might not notice and they just die. Because I would assume nitrogen doesn't have a smell or anything. That's at least as far as I'm aware. The hatch is unlocked, and when Aphrael comes in, her eyes take a moment to track him, but he can see her eyes. She's turned her helmet transparent. So I think we do. I assume it's like basically one of these helmets. We see like a lot of these like golden helmets. It's also like a sci-fi trope like helmets that you can turn like kind of like visible or opaque depending on the situation. She's a scrubby little creature with tight, springy hair caught up under a cap. There's sweat trapped between her cheekbones and the helmet. Her ears look dry enough to crack. Her eyebrows look half grown. He is annoyed by her face. It looks so distant and self-centered. But then again, Raphael always looked pinched and sour, and she wasn't, not even a little. So this is a situation where we're getting like a lot of parallels between both like Aphra and Holly and their factions, and the idea that they're not so different, but and they're more similar than they might believe at first. Also, I had to bring up the meme again. Him critiquing Holly like that after she was just talking shit about him. He reminds me of this. Hold on. It's just this again. Wow, these people are so weird. Thank God I'm the only normal person here. Never change, Sammy. One day I'll play the entire thing. I'll probably play it at the end of this. We must reach an accord, she says. A detente. Dietente. The easing of hostility or strained relations. That will relieve us of the need to kill each other. He nods cautiously. We've been doing all right so far. Her locked up in a cabin with him with the run of the ship. It won't last. I've been working the sum. Her armors lit our blazes math onto the wall. She picked a very ornate font, and after I'll resist the urge to criticize. I love their dynamic though. They just can't give each other any credit for anything. But it is interesting because last stream I was asking if is there a book somewhere with like the sum in it that's like just like a really long equation. Like imagine like a Bible, except when you open it, instead of like normal religious text, you see like a long equation. And here we do have literally the sum being represented by an equation of some sort. I'm not obviously this is being done by Halia. I don't think it's like this is like an objective sum in the same way that you like you turn to the Bible for like your Christian teachings or whatever. But it does show that there are at least some characters such as Halia who do literally interpret and process the sum as an equation. And once again, you might see this as a very blue thing to do, like to write it down as an equation, which it can be. But I think the example I've given is like white, when confronted with the trolley problem being like, okay, the train is heading towards a bunch of people on the track. There's 5 people. You can redirect it and kill one person to save the 5. White's argument for that is usually going to be you should change the track to save the one person because then you save them as many people as possible. With, exception to like if the 5 people are like pure evil or something. It's what mustache feeling evil or something. So even though yes, the equation can seem very blue, I think there is an aspect of white that would lean into this idea of seeing like the world through a very like trolley problem-esque lens. And I think this also lends well into like white's potentially overly black and white or overly simplistic view of the world, in that like, hey, there's good and evil, and if you are not on our side, you are evil, or you should stay out of our way kind of thing. It won't last. I've been working the sum. Her armor lit our blazes on math onto the wall. She has picked a very ornate font, and after I resist the urge to criticize it. Don't you know any other way to make decisions? He asked. Yeah, and see, I think the monoliths have their own problems. I think Aphra has a point here, and this is what I'm critiquing about the Palatinate, is that the Palatinate just sees everything as a giant trolley problem. So they can justify anything by saying, "Oh, we'll save more people later," basically, or they'll save hypothetical people in the future. Which is like, there are times and situations to be like, okay, we gotta think about the future, and like we might have to make a sacrifice here to save later. But the problem is they're always in that mindset. They're never not in that mindset. They see everything as like a big cosmic trolley problem. I know not a lots of ways to make bad decisions. The sum is supposed to give you a set of boundaries for good decisions, like a light in the distance to steer toward. So this could be like meant to invoke the idea of like a star, specifically like something like the North Star, because light is used, at least especially in our world, like the North Star is like used for like a sense of direction, and we know that white in general and Magic Gathering is often represented with light and stars, and they're literally the Sun Star Knights and whatever. So it would make sense that like you could see that as like a metaphor for the light, for like a star or a North Star to steer towards. And I'm sure they might use stars too if you're flying a spaceship. Only the sum says that I was supposed to kill everyone on the ship, including myself, but I didn't. Why didn't I? This is his chance. He's going to convert her to monoism. Well, yeah, except you're not a monoist. Only he's a failed monoist. He fled from the door to paradise. How could he convert her to the belief that he deserves to live? He deserves to live. He doesn't even know how he converted himself. Why didn't I take Sekar? He asked. He really means it. I'm not sure. Still not sure I understand. So once again, we're getting like very interesting parallels between the characters. Like, you're not so different, you and I, but maybe like It's basically like a you're not so different you and I see, except like I would say more interestingly done. Like it's not just the characters like literally just pointing it out. Because you're a coward. Am I a coward? In monoism, oh, here he goes again, preaching like a hypocrite. We say, do what comes to you. The fact that it came to you makes it right. You can't just do whatever you want. People are selfish. People won't help each other. Malamass may come naturally to Drix, but for us humans, it's effort. It's the first thing we give up when we're pushed. Anyone who's been anywhere hard knows this. So this is a very This is a very white and black and white debate. No, we don't believe that. People actually want to protect and give, taking, taxing, building armies, appointing rules. All that comes later, after mistake. We don't want to make that mistake in the next eternity. So this is like a very like black and white conflict, where black is kind of like leaning towards the idea that people are inherently selfish and you cannot control everyone, so you just have to look out for yourself. But white leans the idea that like most people are inherently good and want to do the right thing, but sometimes, yes, there are people who are selfish, but that's what laws and rules are for, right? Is that most people actually do want to do the right thing, but sometimes they just need a little push. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes a situation will force you to be more greedy or more selfish. But sometimes you can put in laws and stuff that can put people in positions where they're more likely to be nicer to each other. Because this world is too terrible to save. You've given up on making a better cosmos. You think you'll throw everything down a hole and it'll land right, and you'll hop down and after and flop into paradise. We're repeating arguments that we've heard others argue, aren't we? See, which I think is a very good point. It's a very interesting like idea here of like thinking for yourself, which is very interesting. Because I think so white and black are both next to blue, and blue has this idea that like you can control other people sometimes. It's like, yes, blue wants perfection, but blue believes in free will, and that I think the like the flip side of that is if everyone has free will, that means you can like convince or control people to act a certain way for your own purposes. And I think white and black also lean really, especially with like Esper, lean really hard to this idea of like controlling others sometimes. In white, it's usually like to try to get people to do the right thing, or put like for the quote unquote greater good, or what white sees the right thing. But in black's case, it's usually like it's usually for more selfish reasons, like getting people to do what you want, so that way you can obtain more power. So I feel like it's kind of interesting, like critiquing both, like maybe the more controlling aspects of both white and black, and stuff like that. And it's very interesting how they're kind of like a conversation like learning to think for yourself. I don't think it's necessarily going to end with like Halia not being white aligned anymore, and or like them both going to red or something as some metaphor for thinking for yourself. I think what's going to happen is they're both going to stay like have that white alignment and black alignment respectively, but it's going to be more like their own interpretation and philosophy takes on it, kind of. Yeah, she says, smiling just a little. One of her top front teeth is slanted, like she chewed a piece of it away. It probably might have been because you fucking domed her, actually. It's what comes to me. Doesn't that make it right? What feels right about this, he says, feeling clever. Is that I'm trying to understand why I chose to live, and you're trying to understand why you weren't killed. What if I told you that sending people to die is wrong? That you shouldn't be chosen to end your life by anyone. So this is a kind of an interesting argument, because you could see this as a kind of a white argument on Afro's part, but you could see this as a sort of a black argument, where it's sort of like I think they're actually but you're trying to understand why you weren't killed. What if I told you sending people to die is wrong? That you shouldn't be chosen to end your life by anyone. I think there is like maybe a black aspect to this, maybe in like choosing your own destiny and stuff, but I think maybe I'm reaching there. Did this revelation come to you at the moment you were supposed to end your own existence in his name? It came to me. Interesting that also that Holly uses the correct terms for the faller, the correct pronouns. Because obviously she's saying this audibly, but when we're reading the text, it's written in the correct format and font, which is like below everything else with all caps, etc. So it's very interesting that she's kind of showing like a little bit of respect to Aphrael here. She doesn't have like, or at least the implication is like it could have been written like she just says like his, like normally or something, or the faller, or like your shitty god or whatever. But the way it's written, it kind of implies like a certain level of respect, or at least like respect for Aphrael. I don't not necessarily respect for the god, but like not trying to piss Aphrael off. It came to me when they sent my sister into Tothera, and I dreamed she was burning forever on the edge of hell. If a dream could change your fate, it must have been fickle. Also, this kind of hits different now that since we read the Legends article, because we do know there is someone who got stuck. we do have the context of someone getting stuck in like limbo almost. Like it seems like you would think you just go straight into the black hole, but it seems like sometimes you end up stuck. Like 10 years ago, Zhu Ifit's wife made the plunge into the Sotheran supervoid, but was caught in a sudden gravitational anomaly, leaving her frozen in place by time dilation. So it is possible to just end up stuck. So that's something, and maybe not a good sign, but if a dream could change your faith must have been fickle. Depends on your dream. If thousands of cat burned to death doesn't change your faith, it must be terrible. She makes her helmet opaque again. So interesting a bit, she's hiding her emotions. Like she doesn't want to show her facial expressions. Which is a very on the nose of symbolically showing the way that she's basically cutting herself off. She's making it so Aphrael cannot see what she's thinking. He sits there staring at her, fiddling with the hole in his hand. He thinks he may have made her very angry. You guys have been pissing each other off this entire trip. I need to understand the relationship between you and the object, she says tonelessly. You have a hole in your hand. Is there anything else you can do? If the stone works the way we all think it does, would I even know I was doing it? You would, she said. You'd know because things would keep turning out the way you wanted. Is this what you want, to be on a spacecraft or just in the void waiting for something to happen? It's a nice break. So it's what you wanted. It's the easiest way out for you. No choices, no power, just waiting passively for things to get better in the next life, I suppose. He gives her a sour look. I like it. He's like, maybe I pissed her off. Like, you guys have been pissing each other off all trip, buddy. Okay. He gives her a sour look, which he learned from his sister. If the stone always gave me the easy way out, you'd be dead. I wouldn't need a stone for it. I could have shoved a knife into your eye when you were paralyzed. No, because Sir Vondam would have shot this ship down. You need me alive and talking. So maybe the only reason you don't put a knife in my eye is that the object needed me to escape Vondam. Damn, she's right. Let her cook, bro. She got a point. Honestly, Halia's had the best read of what this the stone actually seems to be doing than out of anyone in this story. Everyone else, like Vondam is like sure skill, but I feel like sometimes he like kind of gets blinded by like his self-sacrifice or whatever. I feel like Halia has so far the best read of what the device does and how to actually like move it around and stuff if you don't want to get affected directly by it. Would it be so bad if the object escapes? What are you so afraid of? That you'll bring the object into Sothera. Sir Vonham says that it would let you change everything, the whole cosmos. I may have fallen from the sun's path, but I can't let that happen. I am not going into Sothera. Is that what my people would do if they had the stone? Throw me down there with it? He wants to rear up in anger, but flexing his calves just sets him adrift, spinning. He waves his arms. Look at me. Listen, I am terrified of the plummet. I'm not going down there. So you're an apostate, she says happily. That's good. I can take your case. What, my case? When I go back to Vondam and the Free Company and make my report, I can argue that you abandoned monoism and Captain Slats was therefore correct to grant you mercy. I'll beg your pardon, and that means I have no duty to kill you. Is that what this is all about, he thinks? I still think that Afro's maybe missing the fact that maybe even if they didn't throw him in, they could literally just throw the rock in, but maybe. Halia takes her helmet off, moving so sharply that Afro flinches away. It's not really mine anymore, she says, staring at the blank salad. She has removed the twitching pendulum. It's the Free Company's armor. I betrayed the right to use it, except maybe it wasn't my choice. Maybe an evil rock under the thrall of a black hole at the end of time made me do it. Is that what I'm doing? Compromising with evil to make my own life easier and thus accepting evil into me? I know what a Rahu would tell you, Afrael says. Do we know what a Rahu is? I'm sure it's like a type of monoist, but what would your evil preachers tell me? That you're going to have to figure it out on yourself. He has managed to anchor himself on the ceiling. I got you a present, by the way, found in the captain's old stores. So this, again, it feels like a black alignment. Like it's kind of just like up to you. Like it's in your hands, sort of like this looking out for yourself. You have to be the one to take charge, and you have to look out for yourself. You're the only one you can trust, basically. So pretty interesting. It's not like Black is like, I think people have this idea that Black is never like wants to help people. That's not necessarily true. Black is fine with helping people, but it just can't come at its own detriment. And usually it's going to want, Black is like, you should get something out of it if you're helping people. So it makes sense that like there are situations where a Black line character could preach like their philosophy to other people and think they're making a good valid point, right? Because some people might go like, oh, Black's selfish, why would you ever like help anyone ever? And that's not necessarily true, because there are situations where helping others like helps you too. Like if you're preaching to someone, you might think that like, oh, if I get them to join the faith, then that helps me. It's not like Black never cares about people either. It can care about people. It's just always going to put itself first. She catches the bottle he throws. 6-in-1 personal cleaning solution. Nearly 10 years old. Do I stink? No, he says, although she does look a little stinky. I think, is that because she's a sumist, or is that because she actually looks a little stinky? I just thought if you were want to stay in the armor, you might be all greasy in there, so you could pour a little in and, I don't know, wiggle around in it. Pour a little through my armor. She pinches a drop of solute into a patch of water and squeezes it to mix it up. How would I do that? He holds up his right hand. I have a hole. She laughs at this. Her armor splits open like a crab molting. Part of it that seems solid just unzip. She was watching him carefully. He watches her back, curious what she looks like in the general way people are curious about each other. So it's kind of a joke, but he can literally reach through objects using the hole in his hand. I guess the joke is also referencing how he basically stabs her with the injector, like in the previous stories. She pauses. You're making me wary. I am. We fought for our lives. You've cut me out of combat armor. You've nearly crushed my throat. Do you think I'm waiting for you to take your armor off to kill you? No, she says. I just don't want you to watch. Very real. But honestly, he says it like he didn't like grab her head and then vibrate her brain or skull like a fucking ping pong ball with like gravity and give her like super concussions. Like, it's not like you aren't dangerous, Ephraim. There are all kinds of different Moors, and she does not owe him an explanation. But isn't she a sumist? It is a depersonalized warrior stripped of ornament and glamour. So once again, we're seeing like a lot of back and forth, like conflict within internalized in these characters' heads, where they're kind of like on the precipice of like, am I of my religion or am I not? Like they're kind of flipping back and forth because they're unsure. Make sure my audio is working just a little bit. She does not owe him an explanation. Okay. He thought they all steam themselves like broccoli in giant saunas. She probably thinks he pickles himself in a communal salt bath when he sleeps. Some folks do that. They like drifting in the same pool. After always felt a little childish for keeping his own. She says, where I came from, people preyed on each other. It was winter forever. If they caught you bathing, you'd be vulnerable. You wouldn't be able to run. You'd die of cold. I don't like undressing with strangers. It makes me think they're waiting to steal or kill me to eat. So so I don't know if this implies cannibalism or if this means that there's just other species down there that wouldn't view eating humans as wrong. But I think this world sounds very interesting. I'd love to see it one day. Oh, this is like something out of old tales. When a gaze could imply a threat, when privacy was based on fear instead of preference. I guess that might be a reference to how we view privacy, because yes, privacy is sometimes a preference, but I feel like we, as a modern society, appreciate our privacy a lot of the times out of fear, out of like concern about what the person watching wants or will do or have access to. That's terrible. I won't kill you when you take off your armor. I'll go. She cocks her head. Is that easy for you? You certainly won't kill me, even if it's the right thing to do. In the next eternity, we won't need to kill each other, he says. It'll never be the right thing to do. Yet you hesitate to kill Vondem in this eternity. Of course, I have to hasten the extinction of the stars and the coming of eternal night. She squints at him, her head cocked. I beg your pardon. If you still believe that, maybe you should pardon yourself instead of waiting for permission. So once again, this feels like kind of like a black line point. It's just like, just take matters into your own hands. You can only rely on yourself. Then Intercom chimes. Hey, you two. Metal Man's here. Come out and present yourselves, or he'll present you. And by the way, please don't call him Metal Man, or tell him I call him Metal Man. He prefers the name Tezzeret. The airlock opens. I already talked about this art so much. I'm just not gonna cover it here. Yeah. So there's a highlight behind his head, which helps, like, it gives almost like this halo effect. So it draws attention to his head. Blah blah blah. Blue, purple references like his demeanor, identity, even though he's colorless in this, and he's colorless in this set because he's mostly artifact now. He has really well sculpted tips there. I don't think anyone ever talks about that. Like, did he ask for that? Why did Phyrexia do that to him? Not that it's always had this claw. Anyway, there is no preamble. Oh, I mean, his claw shows like, you want to show, like, he cares a lot about artifacts, we give him an artificial like limb. There is no preamble, no herald, no subaltern, or a drone sent to check for danger. Since the first day he drew Sammy into orbit, the defining trait of the Middleman has been violence. Violence of body, violence of thought, violence of action. Yeah, Tezzeret is kind of violent. And part of this is because Tezzeret's like upbringing on Esper, but it's not like justifies actions, it's just like a little bit interesting context. It's like something to think about a bit. Even as ship appeared violently and possibly cold and dark, it grappled onto Seriema from nowhere, a black urchin without engine or radiators. So earlier, Samuel refers to Tezzeret as a wizard, and the way they talk about Tezzeret, it implies that Tezzeret's sort of an anomaly. And there are wizards in the set, but there's a couple like explanations for what's happening. So Tezzeret himself mentions that in the Planeswalker's Guide that the magic they use on the Edge seems very rudimentary. Like they have a very rudimentary, like primitive understanding of magic according to Tezzeret. So it could be that yes, while there are wizards on the Edge, that Tezzeret's like magic is just so far beyond like what the Edge is used to because he's from another plane, and that might be why he's able to move without engines or radiators. He might be using magic, and we know he can like manipulate metal and stuff. So he might literally just be propelling himself through space using magic as opposed to a combination of magic and science or science. Because it feels like the people of the Edge are a bit more reliant on technology for their magic, and that in some ways that like maybe on certain planes they may not be. Another possibility is simply that while they're referred to as wizards in the set, it's just for us as a viewer. Like they might not be called like wizards. Like there might not be real quote unquote wizards in the Edge in the sense that you might not just call people wizards in the Edge. We might just be called wizards because that's just for us as the audience. So it has no way to move, and yet it does because the Metal Man wills it. Yeah, because he's using his magic metal. And once again, this shows like I think a gap between how the Edge uses magic and how like maybe the rest of the multiverse tends to use magic. Because most of the multiverse, like yes, Dominator has high tech technology, but like planes like Esper are way harder into magic, and like they don't need like machines help, but like it's not like you need like a machine to cast like Orzhov spells and stuff usually. So this shows like this is a pretty interesting characterization of like the Edge, and also just like how a planeswalker might stand out. Is like on the Edge you might be more reliant on technology like robots, etc., etc. Like Sammy uses robots primarily, it seems, and like an antenna rapier, and then Halia's got her suit, for example, and sometimes it draws power from things like the Dawn Sire, like when you're in the Dawn Sire. Even Vonam uses their suit, and they seem, and so like, and then we have I guess the closest we get to like something that what Tezzeret's doing would be like Alfrail's magic, but even then they seem to be using a lot of artifacts for their magic. And there seem to be like certain species that can do certain things, like the Drix can web walk, but generally if you are not a Drix or a cat, you're going to have to use a ship to web walk. So it seems like they're more reliant on technology and artifacts in ways that maybe people from other planes may not always be. And now he is here. He pushes into Sariema with the calm of a pry bar. There's nothing hasty about him. He crackles with pent-up potential, with ungrounded change. The air smells of ozone and bitter oil. Bitter oil might be because he isn't a Phyrexian, but he got the Black Seal upgrade from Phyrexians, so that might be why he smells like oil. He's like the clouds on Earthros, pregnant with lightning. Sammy has seen the black carapace of his body open. So we do know that previously Tezzeret was blue, black, and comparing a blue character to like lightning and air would track. Honestly, this is always the case, but we know that blue tends to be associated with like lightning and the sky and air because those tend to be associated with like higher elements, and like in classical Greek thought, it's like the sky and the air are associated with like higher elements like the mind and the spirit, etc. So, but Tezzeret is colorless in the set, just to be clear. I'm just saying this might allude to like his previous alignment, because I think the colorless Tezzeret is more there for like gameplay purposes as opposed to like strictly philosophical purposes to show like a change in his philosophy. Although it could. His head is human, though strange. Strands of white hair drift in zero gravity. His neck vanishes into an armature of ciphered dark metal, immune to any inspection. He is shaped like a man, but would be insulted by the equation. Tezzeret is a man. He would laugh at how it lessened him. So this could relate to how on Esper, like the idea is like they want to replace your body with like what was it? What was the metal called? Ethereum. On Esper, they want to replace the entire body with Ethereum. So maybe Tezzeret still has a bit of that, where like the idea of like replacing. I mean, part of this is Tezzeret's just always been like a really prideful guy, like absurdly too prideful, if anything, like to the point where it's like a character flaw. But I wonder if this like Tezzeret as a man is like almost like it's almost like related or born from in some way from like how Esper works, like replacing the body with Ethereum, like going beyond the physical body. Like I am not just a man. I am a god kind of thing. He looks at Halia first. You wear a wealth of metal, he says. What did you do to earn it? Halia is in her armor again. What she doesn't know is that Tezzeret could control metal, so you would probably be better off honestly fighting him not wearing metal. Not that would probably be an easy fight. Halia's in her armor again. She looks nonplussed. I've never heard that word before. A person surprised and confused, so surprised. Well, wait. Not disconcerted or unperturbed. I just survived this, suppose. Tezzeret beams. A fine answer. Tezzeret probably relates to that answer. given his backstory in Esper. Sammy swallows. Tezzeret's interview with new minions are always volatile. You, the metal man's attention turns to Aphrael, Aether worshipper. Is it true? So interesting. He calls Aphrael an Aether worshipper because that's the first time we've heard anyone refer to the Monomyths as Aether worshippers. We're just curious because Aether is like a substance in Magic the Gathering. It exists on it exists everywhere, but Kaladesh has like tons of Aether in the atmosphere at the point where you just harvest it for like as a resource. And it seems like this plane also has tons of Aether just floating around in space, so they can probably also harvest that. Aether is usually kind of like a bit hard to come by if you're not like in one of those like specific planes though. So is that what the Faller actually is? I don't know. I'm still curious because they're definitely going for the line that like neither the Monomyths or Sumas are 100% right or completely right, but it makes you question their like the religion, like and what they're worshiping. Like, is there any truth to what they're saying at all? Is it like partially true? They just don't have the full picture, or what? Aphrael nods as if he knows precisely what Tezzeret means. All of it. You fled from it, walked away from your school, your creed, your teachers. Well, Aphrael says, I want you to live a little longer. Good. Yeah, so Tezzeret, again, probably relates really heavily to this, given his, like, because on Esper, he basically like ran away or broke the systems that were in place. Well, I wouldn't say he broke, they're still around, but like basically like he was confronted with a choice and he basically realized that the system at place in Esper was basically a sham and rigged. So I guess he's relating to that. The middleman is delighted. Tezzeret, also kind of funny that the Dimir character, the blue-black character, relates with with Aphrael, who we know is mono-black at some point and also blue-black at another point. So it's kind of funny that they seem to have like philosophy. He seems to respect Aphrael's philosophy in a way. Yeah, so Aphrael's blue-black there. Tunnock Tezzeret breathes. There you are. He approaches Tunnock, who flinches. The middleman makes an impatient, stealing gesture and studies the cat from a rude distance. So So I mean, we've been talking about how like the way they've mentioned how like sometimes the way Sammy's very particular about how they look at Tunnock sometimes because it can be seen as rude. So here we have interesting like we just have an interesting. It's being used to characterize Tezzeret as like kind of purposely mean or just uncaring about like how Tunnock feels or like Cav culture, but probably more just about how Tunnock feels. So far from land of war, such power in the form. No wonder it recurs. So yeah. He's referring to the Cav. So Land of War is a place on Dominaria, and if you don't know, I don't know if we've only seen Cav on Dominaria, but this is the first time we've gotten Cav that are sentient, or like humanoid sentient in that way. I don't know if we've gotten Cav outside of Dominaria. So, but basically that's what Tezzeret's planes walked around. He's been like Dominaria. So he's basically saying, "Oh, you remind me of the Cav from Land of War. You are really powerful." He sniffs. You made something of yourself, but you're afraid of it. I don't know what you're talking about, Tunnock growls. His own sinuses are closing, his breath hissing between his jaws. You blinded yourself, the middleman says. He turns to Sammy and you. So I don't think Tezzeret has any like mind powers, so I think it's just him reading them like a book. But I think what he means by you blinded yourself is just basically it's Tunnock's refusal to make a choice because I guess in Tezzeret's opinion, just like and probably like maybe a lot of people's like Tunnock shifting the rock, even if by accident it saved more people than it like hurt. So people like Tezzeret probably wouldn't see that as like a character flaw or a bad thing. But then again, I don't think Tezzeret would care if the rock hit the million people either way. But and you and me, Sammy says, "Here I am. Here's Sammy," the metal man cries. Here's Sammy, the metal man cries. His body. Sorry, I just realized how I read that. I'm like, Tezzeret does not sound like that. Here's Sammy. Tezzeret just like a fucking sitcom. Everyone claps. Here's Sammy, the middleman cries. His body moves freely in zero gravity like a Monomyth curve falling. So Monomyth use gravity to move the gravity like this. I believe Tezzeret's probably using his body's made of metal, so he can probably manipulate to a degree. He's probably just moving himself. Like a Sunstar Knight on jets, he drifts above Sammy's head like a black cloud. Sammy, the generous Sammy, the charitable Sammy, the protector of strays. So weak on principle, yet you survived. You brought me my prize. You didn't warn us what it could do. And what can it do? Change the past to suit its purposes. The mind you activated on Sigma, it used to have people in it. They're all gone now. They are alive, Tezzeret says. And Menon is correct, just elsewhere, living different lives. What the fuck does that mean? So either, I mean, what? So it could be a time thing, because we know time travel exists. It gets kind of weird, though. Could be a plane thing, but then if they're just... It's such a weird way to describe it. They're on different planes. Like, oh yeah, they're just chilling. Oh, they're living different lives. I'm curious to see where this goes. A different life denies them their life, Halia says urgently. They have been changed. Years of memories stripped away and replaced with what? A counterfeit? A fabrication? It's Anstruth. It's not right. The object is dangerous. Desert laughs uproariously. Listen to her. Counterfeit memories and atrocity. Years spent differently, a crime. What have they lost? What have they sacrificed? Nothing. This world is soft, Sammy. There is such excess out there that your churches go to war over what will happen in 100 million trillion years. So, if you don't know, Tezzeret actually has had his memories fucked with on multiple occasions. I believe Jace basically like mind blasted him so much that he lost those memories, which forced him to work for bullets to get them back and to be saved. So Tezzeret, once again, we're having like a bit of like Tezzeret characterization that's very interesting if you know his history. Like the idea that he's basically mocking Halia because he's like, I've been there. Like, I've been there. I've had my memory erased. I'm still Tezzeret, bro. Like, I don't give a fuck. And he's also saying, interesting that he says basically how like this world, this universe leans more towards like optimistic, I guess, in a way, because like there are some planes like they're struggling for resources and they're fighting just to survive, and there are planes that are literally dying and ending. So I guess if he's like for example in Esper, Esper isn't like on the cusp of destruction per se, but originally Esper was running out of like Ethereum, which was causing problems, and then also now Esper got merged with other shards of Alar, so another shards are possibly like fighting constantly. Although it's kind of unclear, they haven't really revisited that too much. So it's interesting how Tezzeret kind of knows the difference between this plane and other planes, where it's just like you have so many resources. There's an entire, because like not every plane's like an entire universe. Some planes are just a single planet. Some planes are just like a bit of land. So he's basically saying like, this universe is so vast, so big, has so much shit that you guys are arguing. Well, you guys are arguing about like how the universe will end, basically. Like, which is true to an extent, because the monoliths are basically like trying to fight for so. Well, I guess the monsters trying to accelerate how it happens, so I guess maybe that's like not the exact read, but the metal claws of his hand snap shut. He grins. I like it here. So interesting. Which I guess because like for example, Esper is probably like a little more strapped for resources, so he's happy in a place where like he can just take what he wants. Well, Sammy says, I hope you enjoy your stay above the Seriema. Your ship could be better. Once I have the freedom of my full power, once I know who's watching, I'll reward you, Sammy, with a ship like no ship ever made. His eyes go distant. So in this case, given how his ship is currently moving, I might need to take out my dog in a second. In his case, given how the ship is currently moving, what he might be like actually like serious, like with a ship that with a ship like no other ship ever made, because we know he might have access to like. It seems like he didn't choose to get ejected here on this plane, but he might be able to use his magic to create like a ship that would be very unique. His eyes go distant. The ship itself seems to throb as if it has been flicked with a giant thumb. So manipulating metal again. You're keeping it in your hold. I'll see it now. Yes, my lord, Sammy says, testing out the phrase for irony. He sounds so fucking evil. Yes, my lord. Tezzeret seems does not seem to detect any irony whatsoever, but he pauses in his drift toward the companionway. I doubt he cares. After all, he says mildly, when your people take the plummet, the forces you feel as you plunge into the super void, these are called tides? Yes, Afro scratches his right wrist. Gravitational tides. And the void, it has another world inside it, the next eternity. So it's hollow, Tezzeret says. A tidal hollow, the further you go. So does this mean that the monoliths are kind of honest, like there might actually be another world in there? I can't really take the object, Halia says. When I let it escape the free company, I took responsibility for it. If you're going to give it to the monoliths or bring it into Sothera, I must stop you. The stasis cast shines silver in the center of the Seriema's hold. Tezzeret's reflection stalks across it, staring. You'll let the instone go wherever I want it to go, he says. But you can save your pointless death until I know where it wants to go. I've arranged all this so it will choose me as its conduit. I think it chose Afro. Wait, Afro protests. It called me the chosen one. Choosing one, Sammy says. Yeah, I heard that too the first time I touched it. So it kind of seems like it's just playing everyone. Afro looks wounded. Especially we had the context of that side story with the Drix that was hunting the person down. And then that story's interesting because she was being basically like tempted by an object saying she's the chosen one in that case too. So it seems like the object is kind of just playing everyone. There might not really be a chosen one. After looks wounded. Did you get a hole too? No, Sammy says. I did not get a hole. Yo, the Bob surgery was a success, Afriel. I'm just gonna put this on Discord. This shit's funny, bro. This is killing me. The same mistake the Dominators made with the Mirari. Oh, that's a cut. I feel like the references are putting in. So I mean, the Mirari was like this object that promised great power, but when you actually use it, like it corrupted the land and stuff slowly over time, if I remember correctly. Like at first, it just seemed like it was, oh, this is great, it's all upside, we just get all the shit we want, but then it was like slowly corrupting the land and influencing it. It's kind of the idea. But obviously, what you want, but not what you need. Even after a false god tore the magic from Dominaria, Pal still radiated from the Mirari, the sword that slew her. So the Mirari is definitely like you think you're getting something good, but there's actually a cost. The same mistake the Dominarians made with the Mirari, mistaking the power granted for the purpose it sought. Tezzeret strokes the surface of the stasis field, so much like metal, space and time made crystal. Yes, it needs a chooser, but the one who chooses pays the price. I'm not interested in paying for the end stone. I'm interested in selling it. Sammy shuffles sideways until they can see their own reflection next to Tezzeret. End stone, sir? It's what your people call it, isn't it, boy? The stone from the end. Afriel stands at ease, hands clasped, chin lifted. He looks as if he is at school. Perhaps dark figures of unclear power often quiz him on eschatology. The part of theology concerned with death, judgment, and the final destiny of the soul of humankind. So yeah. Which is why you cannot take it, Halia tells the wizard. It's a trap. Whatever someone does with it will hasten the end of all life and the beginning of a better world, Afriel protests. Tezzeret sneers coldly. He looks as if he has practiced a sneer. I don't think he sits in the mirror practicing a sneer, but he's probably done it a lot, because if you know about his conflict, the Gatewatch and stuff. A better world? Is your world so terrible? You have no idea how much worse things could be. I have the power to walk between realities and still could not escape the tyrants who'd rule me. So, hold on. I'm loving this characterization. Wait a minute. Who's cooking? Who wrote this? Is it the same as everyone else? Holy shit, Seth Dickinson fucking cooking, bro. A better world? Is your world so terrible? You have no idea how much worse things could be. I had the power to walk between realities and still could not escape the tyrants who'd rule me. I've been branded by masters who made me and who made and devoured entire species like cattle. I won't flee to a better world. I'll stand and face whoever would rule me. Never again will I serve. Thus, the Endstone has come to me. It is desired and as I required. He splatters his metal hands against the stasis field because I want nothing from it. So this is very interesting because, okay, so there's a lot of references happening here. So first of all, Seth's been to a lot of planes. There's a lot of dying planes, obviously. But also he talks about I had the power to walk between realities and I still cannot escape the times that rule me. He's probably referring to Bolas here. I believe Bolas escaped. It's kind of ironic. But he's referring to Bolas here, who basically like ruled him and forced him to do stuff against his will. And Bolas also destroyed entire planes. Like Bolas is like the reason I believe. I don't know if Kaya's plane is still around, but is the reason Kaya's plane is dying. Like Bolas has killed, like destroyed entire planes, and devoured entire species. And devoured entire species might also reference Amonkhet potentially, with how Bolas took over Amonkhet and basically like made people die so he could make basically like super soldier zombie people. The four others trade glances. Sammy says, if you want nothing from it, why did you send us to get it? Don't make me repeat myself, Captain Sammy, so I could sell it. He turns from his own reflection. Do you think it came up out of Sigma by accident? It was made and then buried, not by its maker's will, I think, and now it is unburied, and it wants to return to its maker. So I will follow it back to its beginning. I must know who made it. The strong take from the weak. I will know who's strongest here. I will know who'd rule me. So basically, Tezzeret's kind of scared that another Bolas could be running around. My lord, Sammy says with a little less irony. I don't understand it. Sammy, don't humor this guy by calling him lord. He touches a grounding socket on the cargo bay deck. Charge snaps from his outstretched claw. Lightning takes the shortest path to the ground. I made myself the shortest path to the Endstone to reach its marker. So he knows enough. So that is true because we know the Endstone has some sort of will of its own. So he seems to know what he's talking about. So it leaps to me like lightning, knowing I will connect it forward to where it wants to go. I thought I was the one it wanted, Afriel says a bit sulkily. You are the library it needs, but not its maker. You hear me, Stone? I want to meet your maker. He beckons towards Sammy. Turn this construct off. I will speak with it. Learn where it wants to go. Everyone who's touched it for the first time has gone a little odd, Sammy cautions. I passed out. Afriel hovered. If you touch it, I don't know. I want to speak with it, Captain Sammy, Tezzeret says with good cheer. Weird hearing Tezzeret be happy. Not so long ago, I would have grafted it into my body. Now I prefer to vet my improvements more thoroughly. Turn this construction off. So it might be a reference to how Tezzeret, I think he was forced to like basically take the planar portal into his body by Bolas, which was like eating him alive. Then he had to get it replaced. I also, yes, I would not just graft that into your body because it seems like it has a will of its own and it probably would drag you around. or do some weird shit. I can't let you take it, Halia says. Something dark and jagged flashes in Tezzeret's eyes. He says nothing, but Halia grasps her armor, ripples like porridge, and closes on her. I shouldn't do this, Tezzeret tells Afrael, as if speaking to an apprentice. See, it's really interesting that we know Afrael is like potentially blue-black, and it seems like Tezzeret sees a bit of himself in Afrael. There are things which eat mana. I did not see them awakened here, but sometimes the demonstration does what threats cannot. The things that eat mana, I believe, are the Eldrazi. The Eldrazi basically like eat mana and like reality, and just leave like weird like wastelands behind. Like where is waste not like a basic land card? So like this, like the Eldrazi kind of just eat mana. So that's probably the reason that like flavor wise why waste, for example, are just all colorless, is because like the idea is that basically all the colored mana has been eaten, devoured by the Eldrazi. This is like also a different influence of the Eldrazi. I guess it depends on which Titan or which Eldrazi is eating away at it. That's why a lot of Eldrazi have like this sort of gray background, but most partially to signify the colorless, but also partially to show that like they're kind of like devouring the world around them. I believe there was like an enchantment art that showed like the Eldrazi eating and like land for contrast, but I'll find it some other time. And here we have like consume the meek, which is black, but let her go, Tenek roars. Don't, Halia squeaks. Make him kill me first. Peace, child, peace, Tezzeret waves. Halia drifts away, spinning, limbs limp. Tenek leaps after her. Let's see what the Unsun wants of us. Would you do me a favor, please? Tezzeret's going to drop a crystal over a map of Sothera. Could you guide it to this place near Uthros? It's called a laboratory point. It contains, well, infinity, if you'll forgive the wordplay. No, do we read this at the end, or? Okay, we'll go over the refusing options first, I think. The crystal will point to Sister Secundi, where the monoliths are building a new temple to nothing. It's kind of like a joke, but like they're nothing. It's like literally like the black hole, which is like a void. I'm willing to deliver the incense to the monoliths. Halia tries violently to prevent the Surima's flight. The Metal Man kills her. Not only are we going to the wrong place, but now we are down a vital piece. The outcome cannot stand. Refuse 4. The crystal will point to Adegia, where the Sumists are building a colony in the name of the Regent Maximum, where the wind blows beneath mirrorscapes. So yes, I believe who mentioned this last time? Silas Jones also mentioned that yes, there are naturally occurring mirrors, which is like I believe that I did believe them, but this does explain a lot. Where the wind glows beneath mirrorscapes too hot and bright to see. So again, we know that Adegia is like connected to white mana primarily. So once again, we have this connection between white mana and like light, with the idea of like mirrorscapes, and it's like really bright. Afrael doesn't want to go to the heart of Suma Strength and Sothera. They don't give him a choice. But on the way to Adegia, the Serum is detected and intercepted by Free Company Patrol. This outcome cannot stand. Refuse 5. The crystal will point back to Kavron, with the Serum, which the Serum so recently fled. The Imperial Cav government is well aware the guns were hijacked to defend Toro Duen. A diplomatic spat with the Free Company is now underway. The Free Company has sent a mission to the world to sort out what happened, and the Serum arrives just when both Sunstar and Kavron are at their peak vigilance. The Serum is taken. Tenek is remanded to Kalkwasi for execution. Sammy, Afrael, and Halia will be taken before the Imperial Gav Admiralty Court for questioning. The Metalman doesn't kill them for knowing too much. The outcome cannot stand. Refuse 6. The crystal will point to Avendo, of which we have said little. It is a jungle world emerging from an ice age, and home to a colony of Eomidians who arrived by siege ship. A little band will search Avendo for any signs of what the Ensign wants, but I do not want to go to Avendo, and by the time that is made plain, it will be too late. Ultimate decision will be blockaded. This outcome cannot stand. Refuse 7. Menon, you haven't met them yet. We'll be thrilled to discover the Ensign to Giant. We'll be thrilled to deliver the Ensign to Giant Uthros, whose storms cover secrets only the Illvoid can reach. But Uthros is a hive of activity, the gateway to the rest of Sothera. The Seriema cannot explore the Storm Giant's moon without being spotted. The Illvoid have stealthier ships, but even they will find nothing. I do not want to go to Uthros, and by the time this is playing, it will be too late. My ultimate decision will be blockaded. This outcome cannot stand. Refuse 8. The crystal will point to Cythera itself, the super void at the center of this cosmic circuit, the new engine stirring at the heart of the old machine. Halia will not allow the Ensign to go there. Aphro does not want the Ensign to go there. Sammy and Tunic aren't prepared to fly into a black hole. Not even the Metalman is willing to dare the flight. There will be an impasse that will waste vital time. This outcome cannot stand. Refuse 9. You know more than you should. Are you cheating? We'll go to the wormhole, yes, but we won't go to the TD substrate of secular space. The Seriuma won't survive crossing the garden. Go back and make a better choice. So nice little references to all the little bits of like the solar system here. Revision 15, to infinity and beyond. After all the portents in theater, Tezzeret produces a markup rag, a simple sheet of writable memory, like you'd give a child learning to read. He smooths it flat and flashes it rigid with a poke of his claw. Then he slides it into a stasis cast beside the dark dead endstone. He says, pointing at Aphrael. How do I make it show the last thing it displayed before I rolled it up? Aphrael says, it's a Camus rag. I grew up using Camus rags. How am I to know? There ought to be a logo on the README page. It's all one page. It's like an old man. It's like an old man trying to teach like a grandpa your tablet. Like, what's this to? That's the YouTube grandpa. Can you pause this thing? It's a live game. So what they don't know is that obviously Tezzeret, I'm not sure I don't think they're aware that other planes exist, but basically Tezzeret's not from this plane, which means he doesn't know. After all the points in theater puts a markup rag, a simple sheet of writable memory, like you give a child learning to read. He smooths it. Sammy tries to be helpful. You can draw shapes in the rag to invoke what shapes. Well, it depends on the making of the rag, whether it's in compliance with the semiotic standard. But on a commas, you would draw with a left-handed circle. It has gone limp. You turn it off. Aphrael says. So it's interesting, but it's basically like a tablet, but it's like a tablet feels like just like a piece of paper. Captain, would you please let me finish? Probably an Unalit, Sammy offers. Pinnacle sheds these things everywhere it goes. How can you fly a spaceship without knowing how to read a rag? Halia shouts, because he's moving with his mind. This goes on for a while Tunic fusses over Halia's locked up armor. So basically, it seems like Tezzeret kind of warped Halia's armor a bit. I think we've already talked about this art enough. So I'm not sure. Well, actually, I don't think I've talked about the mechanics. So maybe I'll... Was it a blue card or something? It's not blue. Probably colorless then, right? Or something? No, we already checked colorless. Do they even use the card art is always the question. Oh. Whoops. Stop. Andrea Piparo. Andrea. And I've just not used the art. I don't know. I've seen this floating around. But basically, maybe I just missed it. That does happen sometimes. But I ain't seeing it. I didn't see it in my anime drafts, so I don't know what card that is. This art's really interesting anyway because it's messing around perspective a bit. I think you see this in some of the other art, I believe, but basically this idea of showing like Tezzeret's goal of wanting to control like the system or have control over something by showing this like this miniature version of the super void and then his claw like over it, which gives the illusion that basically like it's all in the palm of his hand. Like this idea that he wants to control this, like it's all in the palm of his hand. Supposedly like they even use it in the trailer a bit. This card reads like a blue card or something to me, but I don't know. I haven't seen it. Could be colorless or something. Let me turn off my night shift. I'm just thinking of the blue tint on this just in general, and his eyes are like literally glowing, and he's the main character because you can see the face and stuff. Very interesting perspective on the arm here. Just like how the claw. Interesting, and also using the claw, like it's very like it's like the most like you could have used the other hand, but this looks more menacing. Like it's almost like inhuman like talon claw thing to show kind of like make it more menacing. It kind of just shows what his goal is. Yeah, I just like little effects of like the hologram. It's not like a perfect recreation. It has like little bits of like the. I wouldn't call them pixels. I don't think it's like physical pixels up here, but like you know what I mean. It's like the idea of like so there's something like constructing the illusion of the shape, and it's not just like a perfect recreation of the Sothera Super Void. Clearly they're on he's on some sort of ship here. Interesting that like this takes up so much space. Like at first there's a ship here. As you get closer to here, like this hologram is so bright and like so overwhelming that like it just kind of like takes over this part of the page. But even then you can still see Tezzeret's claw. And it's interesting that this is like very blue. Tezzeret's claw uses kind of like warmer colors a little bit. Like yeah, it's very highlighted blue in most areas, but like even here it's like a little bit like warmer brown here. But then like the rest is like Tezzeret's like more like cool colors. So finally, the Metal Man achieves the image that he wants. A map of the Sothera system, looking down at the plane of the ecliptic from above Sothera's north pole. Sammy counts the bodies up by reflex. Susur Secundi, Adegia, Cavaron, Evendo, Uteros, the outer worlds. So this would imply that there are more worlds besides the 5 main ones, right? These are just like Sammy says the outer worlds, the garden. So it'd be like Susur Secundi, Adegia, Cavaron, Evendo, Uteros, and then there'd be some worlds like maybe door planets, or maybe there's actual planets somewhere between this and the garden, and then the wormhole. What's the garden again? I don't know what the wormhole is. I don't remember what the garden is. A vast okay, Uncharted region. So basically a place where people go missing. The wormhole, all the moons and door planets. Yeah. Kneeling over. But Sammy lives dwarf planets here separately than outer worlds. This would imply there's other planets in the system that I am unaware of, or we are unaware of as the audience. They're not all stated. Kneeling over the map, Tezzeret produces from a crevice in his body. A crystal glitters with inner stars. He pinches it between two of his claw fingers, lifts it up to the map, and lets it go. The crystal tumbles down and stumbles down. Sammy and Aphrodite both clean their heads to get a look. The crystal bounces twice, rolls, stops. Tezzeret rumbles thoughtfully. Uteros. So basically what Tezzeret's, I guess, banking on is based on what we see with the failed timelines. Basically, Tezzeret knows that the orb is going to manipulate probability to ensure that it will just happen to land exactly where they need to go. Because like in any other situation, I don't think Tezzeret would do this. I don't think this would make sense, but Tezzeret knows how the stone works enough to go like, if there's even a 1% chance it will land on where it needs to go, it's just going to do it. And it's probably also part of the reason Tezzeret touched the stone is because now the stone can influence Tezzeret's probability more directly, so he can pull this maneuver. Uteros. The stone wants to go to Uteros. I will alert Memnon to prepare their Elvoy. Sammy coughs. Sir Metalman. That's not quite. The orbit is Uteros. So once again, it's like Sir with like a Y, which I think that's due to ensure that it's like the title here is not strictly like Sir as in like yes sir, or like to a man specifically. It's not male specific. That's not quite. The orbit is Uteros, yes, but that's not where Uteros is. What? The storm giant is here. See, but the feather points to this place that's retrograde of it. That's behind it as it turns around Sothera. Go on, Tezzeret says accordingly. Don't spare the details. I am curious. It's what we call a laboratory point. A bounce between the gravitational pull of Sothera and Uteros. A good place to park things. Once again, the authors like who worked on the set clearly put like a lot of thought into like how things work in this universe. Like I love this idea of like basically you might be able to put a ship here and it might be able to like hover in place for a bit. And what is there at this point of balance between Uteros? Where you came from, did you have anyone who kept charge of traffic? Someone who watched over portals or gates? That would have been, in case you don't know, that would have been Tezzeret himself for the most part, because Tezzeret is the one who basically had the planar gate melded to his body, and he was Metal Man stares at him and begins to laugh. He seems to be in a laughing mood. So very interesting that Tezzeret, he's still an asshole, but he seems like he's in a weirdly good mood, which it's been a long time since I've seen Tezzeret in a good mood like at all. And but what Tezzeret's laughing at is the irony that Tezzeret is was the person who was watching over the portals and the gates and in charge of the traffic. He was the one dropping the Bolas's troops into Ravnica and stuff. And also he was also probably helping with the Phyrexian like rebellion and stuff. Like he was helping ship like some of the Phyrexians back and forth. Draft of outbound message. Type Ultra CDI. Pinnacle Strategic Corps report on incident. Sothera Triviality. Infinite Guideline Syndrome. For Ultra distribution immediate. I can't fill out one more message template. Error off format. I will go mad. Error off format. Utterly mad. Error off format. Mad. Error off format. Mad. Error off format. Mad. Error. User in distress. Yeah, you think? I already talked about the art here. I think it's just very nice. It's the pinnacle of a very like kind of like bluish, but like mostly I think silver and gray color palette to show maybe this helps kind of supposed to be like a neutral faction. But I think the blue here is mostly because like all the Aether and stuff, and we have them overlooking Cav, and I believe that's Sister Secundi then. Let's say interest tap. When it's land interest sacrifice unless you tap an untapped land permanent you control. Add 1 mana of any color. So I guess maybe the idea is that maybe you're using resources from another land to help build the station, but it could just be there for like mechanical reasons, so it won't be like too like good. I guess the idea as 1 mana of any color represents like the pinnacle, like kind of having their hands like in kind of like all the different people are, like basically coming through like the command bridge and stuff of different color alignments. Because the pinnacle doesn't seem to be tied to one particular color alignment. It seems to be kind of in all colors. Director Mantis, whose name means prophet, whose true name she chooses not to remember until it is dearly needed, lifts her finger from her work and tucks her forelegs against her abdomen. She grooms her antenna, shakes them out, clicks her open her discretion, and sprays a jet of frustrated status inside. So this is something that sometimes you see insects doing, obviously, is like brushing their antenna and stuff. This is probably Eumedian. She believes, based on autos trained to deal with cross-species confusion, that it is rude to share your seric pheromones in an open-air workplace. And anyway, she's a private person, so she uses a discretion to catch her more aggressive scents, but not her more aggressive thoughts. So this also implies that Eumedians like probably like a scent, like smells are probably a major part of their language and communication. This sucks, she tells her checkmate in words of chatter, noise in the air. Her checkmate, a role that combines first officer with adversarial counselor, Pinnacle's attempt to pair every director with a dissimilar psychology, is a mechan with a four-legged body and a long turret like Dolphin's Brow. This kind of makes sense that you want to pair people like, because if you just pair everyone with the exact same species, then it's like the idea is that you want to give them like the pairs like a broader perspective or like more like references for how to like different people might work if they're interacting with a ton of people. So that makes sense. Like if you just like pair two humans, they're probably gonna see things only through like a human perspective. But if you like take like for example a Mechan and an Eumedian, it's like, well, now you can better deal with Eumedians and you can better deal with Mechans, and you might be able to like, so you have like a wider reach and understanding of what's happening. Checkmate is a person with a consciousness. Sometimes, as an agnosubjective bundle, it scales its need to experience its own thoughts. Once it just like dissociates. Right now it is scaled down. It did not cope well with the news from Caveron. When told of mass death, it experiences that mass death. So it is dissociation, kind of. It does suck, Checkmate says. We are writing reports aboard a secure fortress in no immediate danger of any harm. We have power over the fate of billions in Sothera. Any subjective misery on your part is a failure of moral scope. What sucks is being murdered in your home on suspicion of ontological infidelity. You are correct, Mantis says. Among you Eumedians, there's no shame in being wrong, only in staying wrong. I am overvaluing my distress. Very interesting conversation. Just like, it's not very like, as far as like humans go, it probably wouldn't be usually a very natural conversation, but it's very interesting seeing like how they talk. But how wrong things have gone, how wrong they may yet stay. 6,000 dead on Caveron. This would be an ordinary day on the disintegrating ruin of the Cav homeworld. It kills a lot of Cav. As a Eumedian, Mantis knows how dearly a home can matter, even when it's trying to kill you. But these Cav weren't killed by home. The Free Company has violated the terms of its agreement with Pinnacle. Make war on your religious rivals, contain the conflict to the inner system. Behind the Free Company stands the titanic might of the Celestial Palatinate. Against that titan strives the equal power of the Monasteriate at Point Prime and the whole Mono's faith. Pinnacle won't risk any trying to come between them. Yeah, it sounds like a pain in the ass to deal with. Like, I don't know the Pinnacle. We don't know a lot about the Pinnacle, so who's to say they actually have the power to back that up to like keep them in their place? But even if you did, it seems like a pain in the ass to try to like fight all these guys. Call that a failure moral scope if you must. Some have. Mantis considers it a triumph. To remain neutral in two bellowing titan claws over the fate of cosmos. Who but Pinnacle would have the weight, the mass, the keel to be so unmotivated? So once again, we haven't. This like seems like a very interesting critique of the Pinnacle, because we've seen people suspicious of the Pinnacle, like some of the Cav and stuff, who think the Pinnacle are like actually up to something. But here's a very interesting critique from someone in the Pinnacle. The Pinnacle as being maybe someone who's a bit too neutral. There's like a saying. It's like if a like hold on. Tail. It's about neutrality. Hold on. If an elephant has its foot on the tail of a mouse and you say you are neutral, a mouse will not appreciate your neutrality. So we kind of have like that kind of vibe, especially since when you think about it, Mantis as an human is probably like, well, I mean, there's humans in other places, but we're assuming they're from Sothera. So Mantis might have like a more personal connection to Sothera and might have stronger feelings about the Palatinate and what the monastery are doing. So in that case, I guess you could say maybe Mantis is more like the mouse in this metaphor, with the elephant being the Freestar Company, the Monoist. So it's very interesting that we have like a critique from someone like within the Pinnacle. That seemed now is it more accurate critique? Who's to say? But it's very obvious the Pinnacle is going for like this sort of like sci-fi like alliance, like it's a kind of like you know, your Starfleet, your sci-fi alliance trope. But here there's like a potential like maybe critique on it, like. Because, like, for example, in a lot of sci-fi stories, this kind of like alliance usually would want to be neutral and try to keep as many people as happy as possible. But I rarely see that, I guess, critiqued. I'm sure Star Trek has critiqued it at points, but I rarely see that critiqued. It was very interesting, like how like this kind of points out like how that might actually function. Where it's just like, well, you can't always stay neutral. Or sometimes people might be pissed that you're neutral, or you might be letting people do stuff. Like you could very well make the argument that maybe if the Pinnacle was a little bit more motivated, they could have prevented this massacre from happening. But this is just like a very interesting, like thought-provoking thing to think about. I'm not saying like the Pinnacle was right or wrong in what they're doing, because I don't have enough info or context for what the Pinnacle is doing. But I love hearing about what characters think about the world and like the universe around them, even if they're not like always like objectively correct per se. Mantis worships the Sum, but she does it privately. She recognizes no allegiance to Tamon the Fourth or the Celestial Palatinate, but she believes in the Sumist faith. So this definitely gives the vibe of like someone like, you know, like there's like Christians who are like, yeah, I worship God, but that's kind of between me and God and not like the church, because the church is kind of shady sometimes, because it, you know, there's like a lot of it's done shady shit in the past. It continues to do shady shit sometimes. There's a lot of weird people who use like faith as like a religion to like just murder tons of people, like murder like people they don't like gay people, and like sometimes even it has been combined with racism to justify killing like different races. So it's like it definitely is the vibe of someone's like, yeah, you know, I believe in God, but that's just between me and God, and I'm not like, I don't like go to church every Sunday or whatever. This is why she wouldn't that be an Eumidian? An Eumidian born to strive for growth alongside other Eumidians, she'll spend her life striving instead for Pinnacle and the greater growth of all life in the universe. So I think it's kind of potentially like maybe reference like a green ideology, particularly in the side focus on like growth, but it's kind of hard to say. It's not a lot to go on. I'm just assuming because mostly Eumidians are green aligned for the sake of simplicity. So she's not from the Eumidian brood on Evendo. But she would like to see them grow and prosper too. Okay, so I said that she might be from the system. It doesn't seem like she is. There might be maybe another, because we know there's other worlds we haven't seen, so maybe there's another Eumidian brood also within system, but it kind of seems like she's from another system. And this might also imply she's like a different build. Now Mantis must report to all of the other directors of Pinnacle's strategic corps that worship of the Sun has led to atrocity. Oh, that's awkward. 6,000 dead is nothing. 6,000 must die every second, every millisecond. She can do numbers in her head, and she does. Yes, death rate in the Pinnacle space is probably within a few orders of magnitude of 6,000 associates every millisecond. So this is very clearly emphasizing the fact that Sothera is definitely like a place that's kind of at war, and at best was on like a kind of like shaky alliance. And it's also kind of give me Warhammer vibes in the way. Again, I'm not saying Warhammer is the only reference here, or this is specifically supposed to be only a Warhammer reference, but Warhammer has like this idea of like almost a horror of the scale at which things are happening. Like how many people die in Hive cities constantly, how many people are dying in conflict, like losing millions and millions of troops just over like a single conflict. And you kind of see like a bit of this kind of like similar idea of like almost like the horror of the scale of what's happening within like a galactic setting. But this crime, 6,000 members of a protected species purposely exterminated in a system that is the critical flashpoint between the Palatine and Monastery power clades. The fact that the Cav are protected is also interesting because that could explain a bit of the conflict between the Cav and the E Midians, and like maybe why not everyone's just like trying to like stop the Cav per se. There might be like the Cav might be basically endangered in a way. So it's like, what do we do about that? We have no power to force the free company out, she says. We have no power to arrest or pursue the guilty. All we can do is deny them passage through the Eternity Column. We have that power. But how can that help us, Checkmate? How can it help the Cav? We will trap them here where they want to fight. We deny them reinforcements from the stars, so neither side can win decisively. We have one power, and it will only make things worse. We can put a cork in the bottle, but we cannot stop the ferment. Just as we cannot stop the monastery from feeding Sothera until it devours the whole system. Even our powerlessness is at a stalemate. Oh, her autos feel stale. They feel stuck like a room with no air. She chatters at a wall, conjures up an image of the Eternity Column from my patrol drone. She will use the side of the column to stir up semantic associations, hoping to spark a new idea, like a Cav or human would. I've already talked about this specific bit of art, I think, a ton. Maybe I'll talk about the card in general. So Guideline Station, whoops. So obviously it's it has like that silvery blue that a lot of the Pinnacle stuff has. I think that might be like a Pinnacle symbol up there. You can see like all these ships coming to and from for like shows that, which helps show as a spaceport, and it can also move, of course, because like everything in space is moving. So you need to be in relation to everything else. Wooburg is interesting. I assume it's just Wooburg because the Pinnacle seems to be kind of like in every color currently, and also because it's supposed to represent like all the people coming to and from the station, like different like walks of life and stuff. When Infinite Guidelines legendary artifact spacecraft, when Infinite Guideline Station enters, create a tapped 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token for each multicolored permanent you control. So rewards, so the more different like walks of life you have, the more you're rewarded. Station flying, whenever it's Infinite Guideline Station attacks, draw a card for each multicolored permanent you control. So this is pretty interesting. It's kind of reminds me of like some Ravnica cards, because Ravnica cares a lot about multicolored stuff, just because it wants you to play all the guilds and stuff. But here, I think it represents like rewarding you for like having different people from different walks of life use the station. And it kind of represents like a sort of unity, maybe, in the idea of like the idea maybe that the Pinnacle is like neutral, and that it wants different people to like come through and use it, and wants as many people as possible use it generally. Because if they didn't, then they would have just like probably said no monoist and no monoist and no sumist here, because we know you guys are gonna fight, but they try to give them a chance. So Infinite Guideline is an armed circle, like a starfish of blue aurora and white alloy. The Eternity Column plunges through the starfish's hub. So this be it. A spirit thrown out from outer space. The hook on the line that leads from Sothera to the rest of the Pinnacle. I can't tell if this is it or this is it. Probably be this, no? The beacon that guides incoming ships to the superstructure, and the catapult that hurls outgoing travels into eternities between the stars. What is that? Checkmate asked. She scans the thermal image, consciously sorting primitives. She has no autos trained for expert vision. What is what? There is an anisotropy, an artifact. Part of this image is false. Structural property of non-uniformity in a different direction as opposed to isotropy. Which part? I don't know. There's an error in the whole image, but I cannot find it locally. Checkmate, she says amused. Before it came to my wall, this image went through every form of signaling. The tactical cores routinely. Her autos racing ahead of her have already produced the answer. Oh yeah, we are told in one of the side stories basically that also the Enemians, like their brains like in like sections, like they basically have like different like chunks of their brain working different like not nerves, but like I guess almost like imagine like if their brain, like our brain is like one big room, but they basically have like they have different parts of the brain working on different stuff at the same time. Like it's broken up into various like chunks. Like it's almost as if like their brain's broken into a bunch of different rooms where they can all work on different equations. So while she's using parts of her brain to talk with Checkmate, she's also thinking about the answer. Each tiny auto is a part of her mind. Yeah, so it was referred to an auto. Dedicated to a task. As she herself evolved to dedicate herself to the task of the E-Median Collective. Someone who knows how to defeat Pinnacle's tactical signal processing is out there, hiding in plain sight. Only one power in Sothera ship stealthy enough to creep up on the Infinity Guideline undetected. And there's only one place that could have learned how to defeat the tactical core's image processing from an agent of the tactical core itself. There's a monolith warship inside our controlled space, she says. She corrodes this knowledge through her autos, especially the theory of knowledge autos, which race to deceive and outwit each other. They don't say anything. She leads them to think and chatter a quest to the Tactical Core's network department. Get me the prisoner. I want to question him now. The human appears on her wall. Flet him and renders illustrate his scent. He stinks of acetones and guilt. Man, this playing really goes really hard, making sure you can smell everything. Like, they put a lot of technology in the smell. He surrendered his ship to the Cav without contest, on the condition that he be delivered directly to Infinite Guideline and Pinnacle custody. Vondam Mantis shatters. Oh. Her pheromones instruct the cells Flet him in to release a greeting scent. Humans do not object to sweet or salt in moderation. They've been raised at the head from his meditation. He has configured the walls of his cell to plummet into the photosphere of a star, and the air in his cell and his air to burn harder than his own blood. So this shows how durable like the Sunstar Knights are. Because we remember that it's important to remember that Sunstar Knights are not pushovers. They are like basically like super soldiers. They're your Spartans. They're your Astartes. They're like your sci-fi super soldier. And like Aphrael seemed really surprised that they took down as like a knight of the Palatinate like at all. So and the fact that they can endure like this level of like heat also shows that they're extremely much more durable than the average person. And I believe Silas pointed out that they are genetically modified, which makes sense because I don't know if I doubt they just left Vonin with all his armor in there. So his body steams. He is naked except for he doesn't have his armor for a breech cloth, and his muscles stand out from his body. His vascular scape maps itself under his skin, under the skin. If she were repulsed by the softness of humans, he would be an odd test case. Translucent like a child, unshelled like a nightmare, but hard, strong. So both muscle and also probably modifications. What are you doing? She asks, genuinely curious. Communing with the savage woman, Venom says. The wound through his skull is an ugly black. Tactical Corps medics inspected it and found it likely to develop complications. Facial paralysis, seekers, mental fatigue. It is not old. I don't understand, Mantis parses the Cymer sentence once again. I understand that you mean an energetic female, but I can't follow the connotations. The sun, he gestures to the wall of the cell. A long time ago, my people from my homeworld called the sun the savage woman. A woman because she was female, because she was a single mass of invested power, not a vector of dispersal like a male. If you will forgive the humanism. Also, maybe maybe a bit of the gender essentialism, but you would forgive. But it's interesting hearing about all these worlds and like different like fates. Like, it was clearly more than just Sumism. Also, it is kind of interesting that they humanize the sun as like a woman here. Not to say that there aren't religions that worship the sun as a woman, but because we know that, for example, angels on this plane come from the sun, and angels are usually women. I think it seems like on this plane they're like more like non-binary, but in Magic the Gathering, typically they make the angels women, which is like potentially gender essentialism depending on how you like look at that. But and demons tend to be men. But there are technically male angels in the D&D set and stuff. I don't think all the angels here are women. I think Slats was like non-binary at best. Certainly being female does not work the same way for Eumenians, but this difference is a source of fascination. Mantis clicks. No matter. Proceed. And savage. Savage because she was wild and could not be spoken to. I speak to the savage woman within me, who cannot be spoken to. He affirms with a nod. You appreciate the paradox. I do not. He said, I do not know what the fuck you're talking about, bro. He laughs. That's all right. I'm trying to find the right words to tell someone who won't listen to me why they should listen. Why have you called me? So basically, he's thinking about what he's going to say to Halia. I believe there is a Monos worship within 300,000 kilometers of the Infinite Guideline. This is a violation of our exclusion zone and of the monastery in terms of war and Sothera. Venom settles back on folded calves. His muscles adjust his skin to transmit emotion. They know. What do they know? That they must blockade the Eternity column and prevent any ships from escaping Sothera. Within hours, they will begin warning off and destroying any ships approaching the guideline. Why? For the same reasons we will. We have discovered that there is an artifact present in Sothera which we cannot permit the enemy to obtain. Stop. Mantis must wait for her autos to stop clobbering each other with new and alarming ideas. Memories she normally stores away are flooding back to her. Memories of warnings, of protocols, of contingencies, of Drix. The Drix who gave Starflight to the stars and left Pinnacle with catalogs of warnings. There are so many artifacts in Pinnacle's Cataclysm log. So it has Cataclysm in it, which probably sounds like they're not artifacts you want people having. So it could be the idea that maybe the Drix will show up if they like there's like some dangerous like Eldrazi artifacts here, because we know the Pinnacle are aligned with the Drix. They're teamed up. So it could be that part of the thing is like the idea is like maybe the Drix help hunt them down, the Pinnacle stores them kind of. But Proceed, she hisses. Sir Venom raises his eyes. The Free Company has been covertly moving fleet elements from other taskings toward Infinite Guideline to help develop a blockade. If you haven't detected the engine burns, it is because of, well, it leaves the implication for her to snap up, which she does. Mantis pivots her head to checkmate. I resign my post as director of the Infinite Guideline, effective immediately. Order an audit of our strategic surveillance and check any software changes made by Sumis on the crew. Acknowledge, checkmate says. I inherit your position by emergency protocol. My new name is Director Infinite Guideline. I appoint you as my checkmate. Thank you, she says, genuinely surprised. Director wants her to stay on, even given her conflict of interest. As Sumis says checkmate on a station comprised by Suma's infiltration, it must truly value her. Continue questioning the suspects, Director orders. Now she is checkmate Mantis. Sir, Vonde. So obviously I think she's part of the reason she was doing it is like, I'm a Sumis, this isn't going to be a good look, but Sir Vonde, what proportion of the Free Company's strength is coming to blockade our Eternity column? Every portion we can spare. How many portions can you spare? Not every ship not required to protect the Dawnsire. Every time we move a ship, the monoliths peel more of their own forces away from their post to match us. We are in an unstable double stalemate. We are bidding ships to control Infinite Guideline. In hours, you'll be at the center of both our fleets. Oh, fucking great. But Susur Secundi and the Dawnsire are your respective centers of But Susur Secundi and the Dawnsire are your respective centers of strategic gravity. Losing either one would lose the war for its possessor. Venom nods again. It would lose the war in Sothera. Immediately and unhappily, she comprehends. This artifact is worth more than you losing. Was worth more to you than losing the fate of Sothera. It could determine the fate of Sothera and many other stars. It was this artifact you believe corrupted the Cav. Yes. How did you fail to capture it there? I was weak. I failed the sum. I gave someone a chance to do her duty when my duty was to not deny her that chance. And by failing to do my duty, I gave her a moral inconsistency, which allowed her to doubt her own. Would you kill anyone who was anyone you believe who was contaminated by this artifact? Yes. So this is giving very like Warhammer kind of like Astartes, like you've been touched by chaos. You're fucking dead. We're killing you. Would you destroy the station in Eternity Column, trapping yourself in Sothera in order to prevent the artifact from escaping? Sweat gathers above his eyes. Yes. We know that both you and the monoliths are holding weapons in reserve for a final confrontation over the Dawnsire. Might those weapons be deployed here instead? Yes. Her autos need a moment to chew on that. She feels like a child, as you Medians do when their days are absent, rejuvenated by the absence of expertise. Did you come here to warn us of this? She asked, or to help your fate destroy us? I came here to stop a woman who I failed. I hope it will not mean killing her, but I should have her. I've killed her once. I did not. I may have destroyed her faith. A student. So once again, we're giving that like kind of black-white alignment from Von Damme, like the idea of like white goals with like black means, like the ends justify the means, basically. Like peace through opportunity. Like if white is peace through structure and black is power through opportunity, combining them, you can sometimes end up with like peace through opportunity. Like we're gonna achieve the greater good through whatever means possible. A student. Check my guesses. A sword knight in trading. He nods. Why would she come here? The artifact took her and made her into someone else. She's on the ship with the artifact aboard, but no Eternity Drive. She will not let the artifact go to the monoliths because she knows that it is wrong, and she will not return to me because that would require her to admit that she turned her back on her faith for no good reason. Her only alternative is to flee the system. To do that, she needs an Eternity Drive and an Eternity Column. Infinite Guideline has an Eternity Column, and is the only place in the system with an Eternity Drive ferries that can lift her ship into warp. What of course Venom doesn't know that they're following the stone to she's with Tezzeret. Tezzeret's fucking can crush her if she's wearing the metal suit, and they're going somewhere near Uthros. Hold on, I get some water. She will come here. Between the two largest fleets in Sothera to steal an Eternity Drive locked behind an encryption key, unbreakable in several lifetimes of the universe. She will come here, between the two largest fleets in Sothera to steal an Eternity Drive locked behind an encryption key, unbreakable in several lifetimes of the universe. What an improbable heist. Yet the artifact can do it. It can find one thread which leads through improbabilities of victory, even if that victory leaves the station and all aboard dead. Mantis breathes out fear and alarm. Venom smiles for the first time, though it is hard to distinguish the bared teeth from a sign of pain. Now you begin to see why we are so desperate to keep this object from our enemy. Checkmate Mantis. Checkmate Mantis. Now you see why we're trying so to find it. Revision 15, the long dark hot. Search radar howls across the dark. The Seriam Aftermarket ESM blocks block identifies it as a Palatinate Mig, dispersed phase array, Pinnacle condemned red spot. Pinnacle codename Red Spot. A Sunstar Free Company sensor sweeping space for a glitter of metal. The Serium adrifts, fusion drive dead, pushed off her last visible course by Tezzeret's spooky impulses. So basically Tezzeret's moving the metal, but not pushed very far, not too distant from the straight shot of Caveron's boost lasers. The enemy knows almost exactly where to look. The radar is not quite at the detection threshold, but every minute it gets closer. With the radiators down, it's getting very hot. Turning up the reactor would mean melting the ship to slag in minutes. Sammy waits to be discovered. The Free Company radar abruptly shuts off. The Seriema reports distant jamming and energy weapon discharges. Someone snuck up on the Sunstar Hunter and took a cheap shot. Maybe a Monolith war mechan or a stealth sloop with a superfluid vortex drive. Sammy would like to see a superfluid vortex drive in action, or not see it if it's working as designed. Over the past days, ships have gone to war over the Seriema's indecision. Over the past few days, ships have gone to war over the Seriema's uncertain drifting vector. Somehow, the Monoliths have learned about the Endstone, but the Free Company and the Monoliths seem less concerned with hunting down the Seriema than with closing the Seriema's only way out. Dozens of fusion drive flames are accelerating toward Infinite Guideline and the Eternity Column. It's a shame that this is where the Endstone wants to go. It's a damn shame. Sammy could have had a real fine time playing Sothera's Most Wanted. Oh, so the Infinite Guideline's in the title zone of Uthros, because that makes sense, because you want to park your ships there. I didn't really understand that. Okay, so I guess that means Vodem's completely right in his guess. Tezzeret has promised rescue will be here soon. A ship full of Ovoid cloud sculptors and engineer mechans. Sammy's not ready to be rescued. Tenet comes in, of course. He knows Samek's moods. He settles creakingly into a chair, just as controls, grumbles, rumbles, rolls left, rolls right, and finally turns an eye to Sammy. You have the ship, he says. It's kind of cute how, like, even though they clearly have, like, different, like, instinctual, like, ways to show emotion as, like, a human and a cab, they still read each other very well. They still understand each other. They put in the effort to understand and, like, read each other and take care of each other's emotions. You're lying to me about something, Sammy says. This whole time you've been strange about the Endstone. Yeah, Tunuk says. Did you use it? Tunuk is silent. It's okay if you're lying to me. I trust you've got a good reason. Just don't make it the kind of lie where you get hurt so I stay safe, okay? It's that kind of lie, Tunuk says, but it's way too late to do anything about it. So I guess maybe when he was moving Sammy back in the mining station, maybe he used the stone. Wordlessly, Sammy reaches out and touches him. Also, we heard from the side story that Tunuk was referred to as a proto-form, like a proto-life form, like he's becoming an Eldrazi. I don't know if that has anything to do with this, but it ain't looking good for Tunuk, based on what we know. We'll see Sammy reaches out and touches him. Are you actually ready to go through with this, Tunuk? Ask the plan. Sammy has a plan. It's a great plan. Maybe the best plan they've ever devised. Tezzeret's plan was to use the Endstone to force their way onto Infinite Guideline, wishing away every ship and person in their path. Then the stone would change the Pinnacle crew aboard Infinite Guideline to corrupt cronies subservient to Tezzeret. The man loves corruption. He loves cronies. He loves consortia. So this could be a reference to an indirect reference to Kaladesh, because we know that basically Tezzeret was like corrupt, like part of the corrupt Kaladesh government and was manipulating things behind the strings. You also have to work with the Phyrexians and stuff, so it's kind of ironic. But cronies, yeah, he does love his cronies, and consortia, because he used to work on a planeswalker, like criminal consortium. But most of all, he loves metal. He has spent his time aboard the Seriema with machinery. For Tezzeret, this is all a project of self-improvement. So this definitely gives like a very like blue-black vibe, sort of like the idea of like improving yourself. Even though Tezzeret is colorless in the set, he has a bad habit, he says, of falling under the control of dark gods. Yeah, this time it will be different. This time he will look for the Endstone's maker in the eye and note his would-be ruler before he's trapped. Sammy has a much better plan. Also, this fear of being controlled definitely feels very blue-black. Like the agreement that blue and black both have in common, and that the color of Tezzeret usually is that the idea that you are in control of yourself and like there is free will. Because they're both enemy colors of green. Green's like there are some things you can't change, and sometimes you don't have free will. But blue and black are like, no, you can't control yourself. You can change your world and yourself, and you are in control of yourself, and you have free will. So here we have like, I think it's a very blue-black thing for a character that, even though he's colorless, he's historically been blue-black, to be very afraid of losing that control, to be afraid of like to not having any free will. Sammy has a much better plan, which does not require them to use the Instone, at least not more than it's already been used. What Tezzeret doesn't understand is that out there, people help each other. It's space. If you're going to survive space, you have to have a code, and the first entry in that code is solidarity. So once again, this is a bit like, I think it's a bit like Sammy's like white alignment coming through a little bit, like this idea that people are naturally maybe like leaning more naturally kind, and then also like there's strict like moral codes you should follow, that you should help people. Because if Sammy was just mono red, he might, like, for example, when Aphrodite crashed, if Sammy was just mono red, I mean, part of this is like the end stone manipulating shit, right? But if Sammy was just mono red, but the inside even, and the inside even states like Sammy would never basically abandon those people, and the inside even states like Sammy never abandons people. So if a mono red character, like someone who's like maybe more like Tunnock, would say like the right decisions, like if you don't care about these people, then obviously just get whatever you care about done. But like I think it's kind of where Sammy's white alignment comes in sometimes, like the idea that like of a strict moral code, like you maybe owe people something, even if you don't know them personally. Ultimately, we are all together against the void. Even a monolith stealth sloop will give aid to a stranded free company ship and thermal runaway if only to take prisoners. It's a bit of a stretch, wouldn't they? Sammy should ask Aphrael and Halia. Don't fucking ask them. You'll never hear the end of it. Sammy's plan is to ask for help. First, they'll type beam a message to Infinite Guideline, a request for Pinnacle's help and protection, though not explicitly not Pinnacle's Malamass. Halia will, if Sammy can convince her, signal the Free Company for help in escaping the monoliths. Aphrael will beg the monoliths for help against the Sunstar Free Company, but they're already doing that. Well, I'm not sure that they'll help you. And once Siriama gets close enough to the Infinite Guideline under the protection of everyone, they'll steal one of the drone warp ferries docked at the Guideline Invention Attorney. This is a very bad idea. Yeah, it's a trick. It's taking advantage of solidarity. So we're getting a little bit of like maybe a bit more like the red part of Sammy, like maybe more like looking out for yourself kind of thing. But it wouldn't get anyone killed except by their own voluntary participation in violence. But then we get like a bit of like the kind of like the white justification where it's like, well, they don't need to kill each other. If they do that, it's because they're being assholes. Sammy isn't afraid of the plant feeling. What Sammy fears is she's out there, Tan, somewhere in this system. Miri's alive. I know it. I know it because if she were dead, I couldn't handle it. So how can I leave? How can I leave Sothera without finding her? Tan takes a long, slow breath. I've been waiting to say this for years. Is now the time? Yes, it's the time. You know, she's probably fine, Captain. She probably wife-locked to another ship, and then that ship flew away, so she couldn't wife-lock back. And she lived out her life with that crew, happy as a cat who was warm and fed. Maybe they loved her so much that she turned her chip, that they turned her chip and let her have kittens. And if you ever found her, is this like implying that like they have like neutering in this universe, but it's like you can turn it on and off, or something. And if you never found her, it'd be all right. She's a cat. She loved you, and you loved her. But give her someone new to love, and she'll love them too, as long as they love her back. That's not a strategy, Captain. That's the best most of us can ever hope. If we can't be happy in more than one place, on more than one ship, with more than one person, that means most of us will die before ever finding our happiness. Miri knows that. She knows that she'll be happy wherever she ends up. She's a cat. It's actually kind of real, and I kind of like the idea that like Tannic is kind of pushing back against the idea that there's like there's like this idea like there's like the one, like you're like there's like the one person you're destined to like be with or fall in love with, and Tannic's kind of pointing out that like the idea of there being a one is kind of like a sad idea, because like if you never meet them, if there's anyone besides that, you basically will never be happy. But there's kind of like a beauty in the fact that like maybe there isn't a one, maybe there's like multiple people who depending on how your life goes, you could hang with them, and you could love each other or like each other. Yeah, Sammy says quietly, but I have to know, she's my cat. It's not a silly thing, Tunnock. Everyone who left thought it was silly to care so much, but they wouldn't have thought it were silly if she were my sister, or my mother, or my wife, or my friend, or my comrade from war, or the only person who survived the worm speaker, or a complete stranger who I fell in love with at first sight. I mean, yeah, honestly, looking for your cat probably seems a bit more reasonable than someone you just met and didn't talk about. I don't know personally. If I spent the rest of my life chasing those hypotheticals, it'd be decent, faithful. It's just because she's a little cat, people think, well, she's not quite a person. She doesn't deserve devotion the way a sister or a lover or a comrade would. Also, again, Miri shares the same name as a character from Magic, which is kind of funny. Like, there's Miri, the pet cat, is also Miri the cat warrior, who's like, I don't think these are the same character at all. I don't know if it's a reference or what, but it's kind of funny that like Sammy's pointing out like the importance of the pet, and we have like a cat named Miri who was like an actual like person. Maybe not. Maybe they're all right, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Miri's a lesser thing than a person, the way you or I would be lesser than a Drix or a god, if there are gods. So will that change anything? Shouldn't we treat lesser things better than we treat ourselves? there's like what's that quote? Like you can judge a man by how he treats people like lesser than him, not by how he treats not how he treats equals or people he deems like more powerful. Wouldn't you hope if there were gods that they would chase you across the stars just to make sure you were all right? Even if Miri's less than me, somehow I have to treat Miri the way I would want to be treated by a god. A better god than that rock. Yes. Yes. Turk shifts in his chair, turns his mouth and his big sensitive sinuses at Snam. Can you fly this ship through the Eternity Column and out of Sothera, knowing you're leaving Miri behind? I can come back. Tezzeret says he can get us back in. He's set up here. It's his base. No, Captain. No, don't lie to yourself now. Pinnacle will be searching for us if we pull this off. The Sunstar Company and the Monoliths will pin us at the top of their bounty boards. They'll know you have people in Sothera. They'll be keeping an eye on every incoming ship, even if we ditch the Seriema. No. Then even if we buried the Seriema inside of their ship, a clean ship, and came back here, even if we changed out the drive and signature and actually that might work. Huh. See, Sammy says, it'll work. I won't be leaving Miri behind. I'll come back for her. You really believe that? Yes. Tunuk chuffs a breath through his sinuses. And I believe it too, Captain. That was actually a really good scene. I love that scene so much. You're the weak link, Afriel says. She's not the weak link. She just got battle damage. She has taken off her armor and laid it out to be tested because the middleman did something impossible to it. Her sensors registered no emission or force. Yeah, he just paralyzed her and spun her away like a toy. How did he do that? How did he do it? Take all her training and equipment and just mock it. She stares at the parts laid out before her. Helmet, body mesh, pauldrons. So I guess the body mesh kind of reminds me of like chainmail. I don't know. It probably isn't literally chainmail, but I guess it gives that kind of vibe. Maybe it serves a similar purpose. Pauldrons and cuirass. I don't know what a cuirass is. Piece of armor containing a breastplate. Okay. And backplate fastened together. Flexible placard and long cuisses and greaves, and a healed sabatons to protect and stabilize her legs. She always thought her legs were too long, made her seem gawky and unbalanced. She had nightmares as a youth of someone coming out of a bunker and hunting her to eat her legs. Do you eat each other? She asked Afriel. What? On Sister Sakuni, there's no life there. What do you eat? When you die, do they bake you into bread and feed you to the faithful? Do the Mosumas do that? I think it's just your planet. Usually we cook you on a barbecue like civilized people, Afriel says. That's a joke. Are you going to deflect forever? He crutches on the wall of her cabin cell. His black garments are in the wash. He wears 2 small sweatpants and borrowed button down, which he has opened against the heat. He is unpleasantly bony and muscular without Vonim's healthy fat. She is in a cap for her hair. Oh, that's like a nice little thing. Like, yeah, black person wearing like a cap. What she wore under her armor and body chassis and a robe for security. Her concealment isn't some relic fear of gaze or holdover from modesty culture. She just doesn't believe. She just doesn't like anyone to see her unarmored and unarmed. She doesn't care one way or the other. The divide between them is much more profound than any taboo. She believes in the beginning of life. She believes in the end. I'm not the weak link. She lies. I'm going to return to the interesting as she's lying. She does with the weak link. I'm going to return. This could also be her the weak link between like her and Vondam. Like she should have been stronger in her eyes. I'm going to return to the Free Company to beg pardon and report Vondam's actions on Caveron. Destroying the Endstone is obviously beyond me now, with Tezzeret aboard. What is he? I hear the but, he says. But I can't let the Endstone just go wherever it wants, she says. I can't. Because it's your duty to return the Endstone to your people. You already chose not to do that. She searches the components of her armor for some telltale defect, some tiny flaw down in the tiled circuitry and Inca glass, and a right-ruled alloy that permits Tezzeret to seize her. If we do what the stone tells us, who are we? We're just you, living for nothing, tossed along by whatever the stone wills, if it wills anything at all. Isn't that what Vonem must have told himself before he had the order to kill everyone in Toroduan? That the stone wants me to show mercy, so I must not. There are always jokes in movies where someone uses violence as a kind of sublimated passion. Come back in one piece or I'll kill you. Halia always hated these jokes because they seemed to lessen the character making the threat. Oh, you're going to threaten to kill your lover? You're going to shoot an apple out of their hand or test their armor with a stab to express how angry you are that you love them? How undisciplined you are to deploy your violence unseriously. How impotent your violence must be if it can safely be deployed as a joke. So this feels like a very like white line thing, kind of, where it's just like a very black and white view of morality in a way. Well, I guess maybe she's not saying it's immoral. Maybe she's more just saying like, I can speak louder than words. So if you can produce the action of killing or threaten to do it, and it doesn't actually work, then you're basically like full of hot air. But damn her if hearing Venom's name in his mouth does not move her heart to kill him. I assume kill Vondam, maybe? Because of what she's talking about? I saw that Afriel says, man, you should be glad I have discipline. I'm going to crush your... Okay, yeah, she's talking about... you should be glad I have discipline. I'm going to crush your throat if I hadn't been trained not to kill. Ridiculous. You were trained to kill, the same as those Free Company soldiers in Toro Duen. Everyone in Soterra has seen the surveillance by now. They were firing to kill because Cav flew kites at them. I was trying to select my Vants. I didn't kill you when you were helpless. But didn't you? Maybe you killed me. Maybe you killed Sammy and Tunduk, and then the insult made you show mercy, or made you into someone who shows mercy. No, I had the pendulum. Oh, you're so certain. You're so certain? Don't you hate us, Halia? Don't you hate it? Not knowing if you're yourself or the version of you who's useful to that rock? It likes you, doesn't it? Why do you want to get rid of it? I don't want to get rid of it. I want to use it so that my sister never took the plummet, the same way you want to use it to swap yourself for a Vondam. Which was a cowardly wish, a surrender of responsibility, but don't shout at me. I'm not done, but it wouldn't work. We can't change anything which would prevent us from ending up here on the Seriema. I could change things so you're all dead, and I'm waiting here for one of them to come get me, couldn't I? But you wouldn't. But you won't, because the stone's your enemy. So anything you do with it aids the enemies. Yeah, but also I don't think the stone would let that happen, because the stone has a will of its own. She stared at the pieces of her armor, looking for the piece that broke, the piece that let confusion into her. She wonders out loud, what do you do with a magic stone that grants wishes, but whose creator might have had sinister intent? Make as many wishes as you can to bring the world closer to a better end. She stares at him. Truly, is that how stories for children go in the false faith? So I just think it's like a very black aligned thing to say. It's like, what do you do if, like, every time you make a wish, like, people are like, something gets worse, and it's like, well, black line's like, well, use it to your advantage, obviously, like, try to work around it. And white line's like a more white, like, mono white line person might say, the ends don't justify the means. Do not use some shit if it's going to cause things to get worse. How else would it go? He jumps a finger at her, and he notices how he does not curl up his finger lest they pass through the hole in his own hand. Everything out here has an agenda, even Sothera itself, depending on who wins the war. Pinnacle, the Imperial Cav, the Great Faiths, all of them are structures created to serve a purpose, and all the purposes is probably different than your own, but you can still advance your own purposes by working with them. So again, this feels like a very, like, black aligned take of, like, why you should care about yourself, and, like, why black might be inclined to work with people. Like, it's not saying, black is not saying you should never work with people, but it's basically saying you should get out of it. So, like, you might be able to advance yourself by working with others. Sometimes you can aid someone else's cause and also your own cause. Your cause, or your cause, our cause, the Rock's cause, they all fit together somehow. So figure it out, Squire Halia. Are you allied with us? Your purpose and ours. Where's the famous Suma's clarity? So this feels like, again, like a very black aligned take, and it's a more interesting black line take than just try to kill everyone and leave. That can be very black, but black has a lot more nuance people give credit for, and there is, like, a version of black that's kind of like, you know what, like, it's important that both white and black are willing to work with people. It's just the reason why they would is usually, like, going to be different. Like, Halia probably believes in, like, you know, the reason she wants to work with other people is probably because, like, it's the right thing to do, etc. But after making a point that, like, you can work with other people, but you can advance both your own goals and other people's goals at the same time. So, like, being selfish or black line is not inherently contradictory to working with other people or being part of a group. Says a man who has committed himself to self-annihilation changed his mind. Yes, he chooses a lower piece of advice. The worst I can do is the complete opposite. Maybe what we need is a moral model the Enso can't change, like our favorite character in a story. The Enso couldn't rewrite a story that millions of people have read. Maybe it could change your favorite story, but maybe not. So, do you have a favorite character, someone you look up to and try to be like? Yes, she says, Sir Vondam. Someone else, please. I love this so much. I don't know. What if this changed me? What if it made me disinterested in stories? But you are interested in stories. How would you know? Woman, he says, mimicking her man. You just asked me. I'm like, I'm surprised you get this shit slapped. You just asked me what people do in stories when they get magic rocks. How long has it been since you slept? Outside my armor, days. Yeah, me too. I can't get used to the straps. I miss my tank. No going back now. No going back. They're so fun. These characters are so fucking. It's just. Can I hold on? Where's the Tumblr? Bring this back up. It's just that I'm the only normal person here. I'm like Afrail, I'm normal. I'm like Halia, I'm fucking normal. Shit is so funny. The ship appears beside Revision 15, the Ilvoy and the plan. The ship appears beside them. A dozen alarms go off, proximity lidar alerts, a star occluding shapes, implied sensor fails that have allowed a ship to get so close, and Tunic works the master reset. They're expecting this appearance. Sammy goggles at the pictures coming in from the dorsal cameras. It's a bubble, a photoreactive sphere of superfluid helium, 2 degrees above absolute zero. Deseret says, that's kind of mad. That's possible. Deseret says, like a man reciting arcane syllables, colder than the void itself, isn't it? Superb. So we do actually have the art for this. We have the art for all the cards, but it was a blue card, I believe. So here we have Uthro Scan Ship, which is the art they're using. Uthro Scan Ship, 3 generic, 1 blue for 4 total. Artifact spacecraft. When the spacecraft enters, draw 2 cards and discard a card. Flying. So the scan ship. So obviously when it enters, you draw a card and then discard a card, because the idea is that it's like basically sifting through information. You grab what's useful and ditch what's not useful while you're standing around. But the ship design is very interesting because it looks like a water droplet within, and they describe it as like basically like being basically like frozen, but it looks like a water droplet like on a cloud, which we know, as I said earlier, blue has a strong association with like water, and air is like symbolically, which is like often represented clouds and flyers. Usually because water and air tend to be associated with higher elements in classical, like higher ideas like spirit and mind, and classical like elemental thinking of the 4 elements. So very interesting that this like looks like almost like a glob of water, like a droplet flying at you. As far as the art goes, it's very simple. You have the ship. It's very interesting that the ship like looks almost like it's flying out of something, like it was like vapor coming off, like almost like it just flew through a cloud of something, which it probably did because there's rocks everywhere, and then it's like scanning. It's like there's different scan waves. The ship itself is like blue and white. Mostly it's like a shade of like really light blue. It has like a really light blue tint. Obviously this is to convey that this is blue, but then like to make it stand out a bit more, these like scans are like purple to bring a nice contrast. And then most of the environment around it was like blue like bluish green. Just really hammering that's a blue card. The ship is also looks like a UFO. Like this set obviously takes a lot of inspiration from like sci-fi, more specifically like what's it called, space operas. But this looks like it's kind of like a UFO shape. Like if someone like drew like a UFO, they'll kind of like, you know, if someone was like drawing a UFO, they might draw it like, they might draw basically like this. So it does have like kind of like a UFO vibe to it. I don't think it's like specifically UFO shaped. Hard to tell. This might be more UFO. These look more like wings, but the way it's coming at you, I just think is like the illusion of something kind of akin to a UFO. I don't know why sketchbook is breaking. No, I do not want to save changes. The ship is clearly Ilvoy. For also the fact that it's made of water droplets, like clouds are also made of water. This is not literally water, but it's like a water droplet. So like it brings a connection to the idea of that like the Ilvoy using cloud sculpting, and so this looks like a water droplet that clouds might be made of. The ship is clearly Ilvoy. Foremost of the species who live in gas giants and sculpt the clouds. Inside that cold sphere will be filigreed metal and vessels of crushing pressure. A deceptively delicately looking hole, but massive, hard to turn. Some Ilvoy technology will explode if you try to remove it from high pressure. Some Ilvoy will explode too. Yeah, it makes sense. They're like jellyfish. These Ilvoy are definitely under high pressure. As search radar spiral around the Siriema, they snug the ship up close and extend the helium bubble around Sammy's ship. Cloud sculpting, Sammy breathes, watching the process on thermal camera, turning so much as a spotlight on the bubble would disrupt it. Cloud sculpting is psychokinetic, and Sammy wonders if it is if it is somewhat cousin to what Tezzeret does to metal, or if it is not at all. So again, we're giving this implication that they're just not like this plane doesn't have as good of understanding of, like, for example, as like magic, and that like Tezzeret's also like a human in like a metal, like with a prosthetic body. So like the only implications, for the most part, it seems like most people like rely on a lot on like technology, like objects, like user magic, and then the ones that don't often also seem to be like specific like species that have that just ability like innately. Because it doesn't seem like a human can just learn cloud sculpting. At least no one's tried, or succeeded. So Ilvoy mechans plug coolant lines into the Serium and flush the ship with their own solution. For the first time in days, the Serium cools. Sammy presses a cheek to the hull and sighs in relief. Then the mechans storm over the Serium astern to repair the fusion drive. One of the Ilvoy comes aboard. They are like most Ilvoy, though not all, and most starfaring clades. They put the narrow diversity of humans to shame. An enormous jellyfish crowned by a translucent brain mantle. This one is draped in silks and so fine and sheer that Sammy assumes there must be a fine trade somewhere. So, in case you don't know, the Ilvoy are called the Ilvoy Combine, and a combine is a term that refers to like businesses specifically. So, the Civic Combine are called that because in theory they would be a business, but like the Ravnica guilds are like wild. So yeah, a group of people acting together for a commercial purpose. Somewhere in Ilvoy made clubware. It smells slightly of swamp and heavily of some cologne. Interesting description there. Although they use a lot of smell on this. Can we bring that one doctor on Twitter who's like been talking about smell? Can we bring her on here? We already talked about this art before, so I will just skip over it for now. I talked about it like last time. Memnon, Tezzeret called, shifting in a cloud of white hair. We have it. The Elvoy wears a mask at an arbitrary point on the edge of its brain mantle. Now the mask displays an abstract human face. First delighted, then curious. It sweeps across Sammy, Afrael, and Halia and Tunuk, all crowded at the compass marks of the airlock behind Tezzeret. Captain Sammy, the Elvoy says, I am Memnon. May I come aboard your home? Mom asks granted. Sammy says, please come aboard. The Elvoy is so polite. Stinks in here, Memnon declares. Rank as a musk on a stratum, filthy too. The authentic funk of the desperate. Now let's see, Captain. You sent Captain Sammy and a crew of 6 to retrieve the artifact. Where are the other 2? 6? Are you implying 4 of my crew retroactively vanished? So we learned that. Okay, we'll get to it in a second. But I don't think we ever see I don't think we ever see a picture of Memnon wearing any kind of mask, or even Elvoy wearing a mask like that. We only see them using robots, but I'm assuming it's similar to the robots they use to express emotion. 6? Are you implying 4 of my crew retroactively vanished? If they vanished, Memnon says, they probably weren't very important. Their mask flashes a smile of delight, but I merely named the minimum crew requirements on the ship. Are you flying too short? Oh, so so they just assume based on that. I mean, for a short, Tunuk says those 2 aren't crew. They're advisors. Afrael suggests hostages. Halia says, Memnon says accomplices. Memnon amuses me, Tezzeret says, and advises me. They alerted me to the possibility of the Ensign's existence. He was the first one who listened. I was thrown out of the Uthros Combine because I kept telling those mantle munchers. So mantle, I assume they're referring to the mantle as like Earth, which makes sense as an insult in their culture because we know that they typically live on gas giants, and thus would be like dealing with planets that have like, mostly ocean and sky. So I guess mantle munchers is like basically calling them dirt in a way. That there might be more to Sothera's oddities than we could find in the deeper clouds of Uthros. Memnon drifted toward them on a spontaneous wind, cloud sculpting again, which we do see a bit of spontaneous. We see a bit of that like here, like the spontaneous like cloud sculpting. I wonder if like cloud sculpting is kind of like web walking, where it's like usually not so spontaneous. Like usually you have to be like more methodical about it. The mantle blushes deep lavender. Using that to explain by expression motion. I deduced the presence of a causality manipulator in Sothera from surveys of system-wide data. The end zone, Afrael says. The Void's mask laughs at Aphrael. And Elvoid can't be rude the way humans can. Elvoid don't learn the same social norms. Menon must learn human etiquette on purpose just to be rude. This guy's a real, like, professional hater. They, like, dedicated their lives to the power of hating. I respect it. This is one of many anomalies Menon says. Our patch of the cosmos is a war grave. An entity spun up by a passing storm. That might be like the Aether cloud the Sotheran sun flew through. That made it almost supernova much quicker than normal. A vortex where dead things collect as they wash up from below. So huge and cold that we don't recognize them. Not even when they stir. The Drix call the pinnacle space the cofferdom because it is a dry space surrounded by deep water, and it must be completely watched for leaks. So curious about what they're referring to. I wonder if the Eldrazi is absolutely referred to this. A cofferdom is an enclosure built with a body of water after the enclosed area to be pumped out and drained. That sounds scary. Wait, Halia says, glancing warily at Tezzeret. I thought the instant was made by Inavita, made by the end of time to bring about the end. Then the time hasn't happened yet, Menon says. There are only highly probable outcomes. The present is real. It is brute fact. Many possible paths converge upon it. In those paths, there are attractors, paths which dominate the phase space. My interest is in what remains of those probable paths. As for the future, I leave it to your faiths. So than the bot in chat. But so I've talked about this before, but it seems like time works like very differently than it works in like some other plans. And the fact that it seems like the past is malleable in the way the present is not, and the fact that you can change the past on the edge, but it'll all converge into the same point basically. So the present is the present. The present will, so it's basically like that theory that like the paradox where like if you go to the past to change the past, you're creating that future. So it seems like there is some malleability here, but it seems like no matter what you do, the same present will probably occur, even if you're changing aspects of the past. So this is also what I think Halia and Aphrael were getting into when they were asking about like what would you do with the stone, like who, like would you switch your place with Vondam? And Aphrael points out like that might not be possible because this has to basically end with us ending up on this ship. So if that switch would make it so we do not end on the ship, that would not happen. And it also implies that like there might be multiple paths, maybe not running concurrent, but like there's like probability and stuff, like there might be like multiple paths like existing and like in some sort of remnant or something. So the grand cosmic coordinates is correct, Halia alerts. It is not. Aphrael snaps. The past and future are real. Their coordinates embedded in the bulk. Silence, Tezzeret makes the walls of the airlock bridge throb. The Endstone wants to go to the Eternity column and into the warp beyond. We will take the Endstone there, and I will sell to its maker in exchange for a glimpse of their power. Menon, your ship will boost Captain Sammy's ship toward the gatehouse, this infinite guideline. I will go along to make the final exchange. I thought we would use the Endstone, Menon says, using the Elvoid body to make some sort of prodigious whistle. Tezzeret glances at Sammy. No, the Endstone remains in stasis unless we need it desperately. I wanted to experiment with it. No experiments. Captain Sammy's experiences have convinced me that the Endstone poses a serious danger to my power over myself, and that must be absolute. So once again, we're having like this fear of like losing power, which is both Tezzeret like making sense because Tezzeret basically being robbed of his free will by Bolas, I guess technically by Jace by accident, but also the Phyrexians, and it also makes sense for a blue-green character to be really afraid of losing their free will, because blue and black are all about free will and that your choices matter. I will not be exchanged by any hand except my own. Then how will we reach the Eternity column? The Elf voice synthesized voice asks without inflection. Simple, Tezzeret says. We know the Endstone has manipulated events to suit its own purposes. Therefore, all the pieces assembled here are useful to it. It will employ them all. Your role, Menon, is to provide us with stealthy speed. After that, you can return to the safe house. Sammy cannot resist asking, what about your urchin ship? Sammy's observed Tezzeret's black armature accelerating at speeds beyond even a military Christ field. We could zip it in there off the table. You're saving in case you need Van and the rest of us to die. Of course. At least he's honest, Halia Metters. You know, I kind of honestly just take what you can get at this point. She's a problem, Tezzeret says. She's thinking. Your plan doesn't work without her help, and she doesn't want to help. Make her agree or I will. You don't touch her, Sammy hisses, poking Tezzeret in his invincible carapace. She's my guest. She's under Malamas. The conventions of high society do not apply to a ship full of criminals hiding in the dark. Tezzeret, again, might be speaking from a little bit of experience here, or at least from his opinion based on like how he operated on Esper. Like Esper, like the high society, and him being like more like a lowly criminal. The conventions of this has nothing to do with high society. This is my ship, and I must protect my guest. Make her record her message to the free company, or I'll find a way to draw the codes and signs out of her head. Kind of funny because he's probably had stuff drawn out of his head all the time. I'll detonate the ship if I have to, Sammy says. I'll kill all of us. You don't understand, Tezzeret. Malamas is sacred. Nothing's sacred, only useful. So this is like a very black line thing to say. It's like objective morality doesn't exist. You have to do what it takes to get the job done. So like sacredness and like morality are all things that are basically made up by people in power to get you to behave a certain way, and they're more like useful tools than something you should limit yourself to. Tezzeret smiles suddenly, a great and a terrible amusement. But prove to me your guess is right. Your guess right? Your guess right is so useful. Go on, child captain. Consider it a test of metal. Is that reference to the fucking book? What was it called? Test of Metal. Oh my god. Is that a reference to fucking Test of Metal? What's this? The purpose of this heist is to steal a warp fairy from Infinite Guideline. Each fairy is an Eternity drive mounted to a short-range drone. They help ships without Eternity drives turn the Gaia into warp. The warp fairies are locked behind unbreakable encryption, and Infinite Guideline is now at the center of a running battle between the Free Company and the Monolith fleet. Both sides are racing to prevent the other from building a coherent defensive formation. As you can imagine, sending the ships we can afford to lose as fast as we can lose them is getting messy. We must get the Instone out of Sothera. If we don't, I think one side or the other will eventually lose the battle to control access to Infinite Guideline, and the losing side cannot let the winning side escape with the Instone. So they may destroy Infinite Guideline and the Eternity Column to prevent our escape. There will be no peace in Sothera, or peace for us, until the stone is gone or destroyed. To help make us make the run, and the Metalman and his Elvoy have made partial repairs to the Seriema. The Metalman's been casting spells in the ship. The Elvoy will use their Borea ship to boost us toward Guideline. Once we're spotted, we're going to broadcast 3 requests for aid, 1 to each side of the battle, and 1 to Pinnacle. Hopefully that'll keep them from cutting us apart and pulling the Instone from our hulk. Hopefully is not a word Sammy likes to hear in a plan, but this is what they have. If we make it to Infinite Guideline, Tunuk and I will go aboard and meet with the Pinnacle. Tunuk and I will go aboard and meet with the Pinnacle. We'll be completely honest. Tell them we want passage to the column to deliver an unusual artifact to its creator. If Pinnacle tries to hold or board the Seriema, we'll bluff with the threat of retaliation from the Free Company or the Monolith or both. Both sides will expect them to make a violent attempt to seize us and will therefore schedule a violent attempt of their own. General thing that tends to happen is in stories when they explain the plan in detail, usually something's going to go wrong or throw a wrench in that plan. So if they don't tell you, it's like a thing you see like a lot in like TV shows and stuff. Is like if you don't hear the plan will usually go exactly as planned. But if you hear the plan being explained in great detail, something weird's going to happen. Aphra and Halia look at each other. While we distract them, Halia and Aphra will use armor to leap from the Seriema to one of the Harbor Master modules at the end of Infinite Guideline stocking arms. They will liberate a warp fairy, order it to dock with Seriema, and return. Aphra will return. Sammy's not so sure about Halia. We'll meet up on the Seriema and make the turn up into warp. So once again, warp speed is a common trope, but also the reference as like wearing the weapons warp travel just seems like a small cheeky nod to 40k and like warp travel. Then we'll ask the stone what vector it wants to fly and proceed from there. Sammy takes a long breath. I've executed a lot of crimes in my brief life, but this one's going to be the biggest and hardest to shake. We will be wanted humans. The Free Company and the Monoliths will want us for the Endstone. Pinnacle will want us for theft and deception. And all we get out of this is the chance to keep flying. We have to move the Endstone. It's too hot. It's too hot to hold. Agreed. They looked around the galley. Yes, Tunuk says. Yes, Afro says. Yes, Halia says. Sammy boggles. You agree? You don't want to destroy it? Don't push it. I don't know what to do with the Endstone. My duty is to destroy it, but I chose not to. Sir Votum's duty is to destroy me, but he chose not to. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because the Endstone has changed us. All I can do is carry out my next duty to return to Vondam, make my report, and beg pardon for Afraio. Everyone stares at her. That's not a helpful commitment, Tunuk says. She nods soberly, unsmilingly. I know. I'll send the message you need me to send, but it's in pursuit of my own duty. I promise, Tezzeret, I'd convince you. Sammy says, arms crossed. They are upside down compared to Halia, head at her waist level. So they end up staring and piercing down at each other. Don't make me a liar. You are a liar. I'm a truth engineer, Sammy huffs. I need a better reason to trust you than trust me. She closes her eyes. I've been watching the recordings from Turo Duend. I can apologize to them by watching them die. I can explain my complicity through attentive voyeurism, but I can't. I have to do something. One of them was obsessed with the idea that Stone had changed him into someone he didn't want to be. So he obeyed the son without question and let him kill innocents. I don't want to be someone who kills innocents in their homes. That's it. I want to change into a person who accepts that. I don't know what will happen to the End Stone if we reach the eternity column. Maybe the End Stone will be returned to Inavita and used to hasten the end of all stars. Maybe I'm interested in everything I've just said was poured into my head by the End Stone. But I keep thinking of the people in the bunkers back home, trying to preserve the long-term visibility of their habitat. While we froze and started outside, and I asked myself, if I were a Solar Knight, would it be my duty to help them defend their bunkers, or my duty to gather up the starving outside and force my way? She cuts herself off, glaring at Afrael like this is all his fault. He glares right back, like he is angry that she makes sense to him. So once again, we're having like the parallel, like they understand each other, but they don't want to admit like they're way more similar to each other than they like to admit. It might be correct to give up on the cat, Sammy says, but there's just no way it's right. Halia laughs. Sure, Captain. And you, Afrael. I do love the explanation Sammy gives for caring about the cat. Like if you were a quote unquote like lesser being, wouldn't you want a god who cares about you or an owner who cares about you? And it's like, yeah, can't really argue against that. If I were an ant, it'd be nice to know that humans care about me. But I mean, humans generally don't, but you get the point. It might be correct to give up on the cat, Sammy says, but there's no way, right? Halia laughs. Sure, Captain. What does some say about the cat? And you, Afrael, are willing to give up the stone when it's marked you? Afrael looks at Sammy through the hole in his hand. I want to live. The stone's kept me alive. Maybe it's the only reason I'm alive. I'll go where it goes. Everyone looks at Tunuk. I'm going because I have no choice, he says, and I never want to have a choice again. So this is what I want. The rock terrifies me. If the only way to get from here is to give it what it wants, and what it wants is to leave Sothera, then call me a portal into higher Lamina and shove that thing down my throat. Very interesting to say that the Blackbeard doesn't want to have to make a choice. Also, it mimics. Oh, that was Tunuk speaking. Sorry. So Tunuk, yeah, makes sense for Tunuk. Red and green. Red and green going where the rock wants to. Not really questioning it, or not really wanting to push back against it. It's all for now, so I guess I will just play a bit of MTGA before I hop off. I'll play like one good round probably. I gotta figure out how I want to improve my Boros heroic deck. Maybe I can find a version online. Maybe I can use that as a reference. We could have read this and cut Soulscar and like favorite hoplite or something, but Monstrous Rage actually would be really good in this deck, actually. I might replace something from Monstrous Rage. That wouldn't be bad. It's not bad. See, what I'm wondering here is if we can replace something with Feather. I'll have to think about this probably off stream. Because I think we could replace this like 2 Feather. Maybe I'll do the rest of this off stream. I gotta think about it. What do you say, YouTube video, huh? Thank you, Siege Rhino. What a way to start. Okay. But I'll figure it out later. Sure, keep. I'll play this one because I think we're gonna need to play Ganja next turn to cast out like 10 District Legionnaire, literally anything else. Maybe we put like one feather. I really want to get feather in here. I think I'm forcing it. I don't think feather really works, but I want to try to get feather. Kill it. Well, yeah, sure. We'll take the land. We're gonna need some land. Kind of weird. Kind of weird. With that, it seems to be they could have done it in response to me targeting my thing, because if they killed it before Grand Voice went off, then I wouldn't be able to search my library for. I wouldn't be able to get the grab this from my sideboard. So that was the weird choice, but. And now I think we might have to use environmental sciences here to make sure we get our land draw. We can just grab the plans, I think. If we don't have plans, then whatever, we'll just play Reckless Charge. We will grab this. I probably shouldn't, but I'm thinking like we're probably gonna need them. I'm feeling like something's gonna die soon. Oh, okay. Just an Eldrazi. Actually, I should put more of it on Dreadhorde Arcanist because it has trample. Okay, they just gave up. All right, I'm gonna stop for now. I know that was a lot, but I'm kind of tired, so. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, even if it was only for like a little bit. I understand that it was very long. Be sure to check out my new videos. I do drop video, actually edited videos every once in a while.